Oh,
Hello and welcome to the Outcast and our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012 marathon. I'm your host HC, and with me is,
Wolf. Who
and we are
definitely didn't
here with,
interrupt the intro.
yeah, yeah. You're getting sloppy at this, my man, but we'll make do.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to season three of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012, and since Wolf told me something before we started recording, I'm going to ask for more details. What did you think
No,
about
no,
this
no, no, no.
season?
You go first.
I'm going first. Okay,
Yes, you're going
sure.
first. I think it's better I go second.
Okay, then I I'll say this. This is a season I'm very mixed about.
Oh boy.
As as you know what, I'm more mixed about its beginning. Although the entire season kind of have this. There are a lot more hits than misses, I think, but there are a few misses, and when it misses, and we'll get to an episode. I'll say this: it's odd that one of my favorite episodes of the entire show and one of my most hated episode of the entire show are in this season.
Hmm.
So this is something. But I'll say this. This isn't kind of split. Is kind of split into two. That there's the first few episodes and then the rest. The first few episodes are a bit more hit and miss, in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
even the later parts have a few misses, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. I have a question for you.
yeah.
You know more about turtles than I do. Do previous turtle shows and the comics, depending on how much you know about those, do they rely on mutagens so heavily?
The '80s show, yes.
What about anything else, like comics or any
Uh,
other
like
shows?
the comics, I'm not entirely sure of. I,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say no,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the mutants that people are familiar with did came from the '80s show, because they have to sell them toys,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say that the 2003 series have have a bit more use of the mutagen, but I barely watched that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I'll say that, if there are two versions of the turtles that I can think of that use mutagen to its core out, the '80s one and this one.
Yeah. Okay. The reason I ask is because this season, I think I came into this season expecting, looking at the ending of season two, I came into this season expecting, hey, we're going to continue on with that plot line and storyline of, we're out of New York, we're in this new area, we've been defeated, we're kind of recovering and retraining to eventually go back to New York and take it back. And we do get that, right? The
Mm-hmm.
problem is we start off with a good first episode introducing us to that idea, and then we just get multiple episodes in a
Filler.
row of more mutagen. We're out, and I'll even give you this. There's one of those episodes in. I'm gonna 6 episodes from not including episode 1, episode 2 through 7. One of them isn't a mutagen episode, and it's actually pretty decent because it does something different. The other
Mm-hmm.
6, though, in that list, all focus on the mutagen again, and it's just getting old. I want to see something different. We've left New York, we've left the Krang, we've left Splinter or Shredder and all of that behind. Why are we still, even now, dealing with mutagen? Why?
Okay.
It just gets old. And I think this is becoming an issue, and this has been an issue with all 3 seasons at this point. That, or at least season 2 and season 3 especially, because they dealt with the mutagen a lot more than season 1 did necessarily. Though season 1 I think also had this problem of we rely.
The season two did start, with the entire first episode of the turtles messing up in the mutagen all over New York. This is like the beginning of it, and by the end of season two, it's kind of amplified with the Krang winning.
Yeah, but I mean it does still, it drags. It really, this season especially in parts, season 3 to me felt like it dragged at times. Like, can we just
Yeah,
move to the point where I'm watching either something that gives me more character development, or can we just move to the two-parter? Can I get to the two-parter because that's the best part of this season so far? it felt like it felt like the season started to really drag until it gets to a certain point. Then it picks up a lot. Then it starts to drag a bit again. Then finally we get to, another two-part, we get to the finale two-parter, and, it really picks up again. It's just, this season really started to drag on, in my opinion. Really did.
Yeah,
Like, this season, I think,
I
exemplified that 26 episodes might be a bit too much.
mhm. Yeah, so I'll agree that some of the episodes
Like,
do feel like eh.
I'm
And
going. This is, if you ask me, how would I recommend you watch season 3? I would say watch episode 1, skip
mhm.
episodes 2 through 7, because there's really nothing in any of those episodes. Even though there's a good episode or two there, really just one good episode. There's one good episode there that's pretty decent that I would recommend, but the rest of them are just kind of meh, and they give you nothing character or story-wise. It's just a lot of repeated stuff you've heard throughout all of those episodes. If you miss any of them, you're not missing anything. Go into episode 8, watch that. Episode 9, watch that. 10, 11, and then the two-parter 12 and 13. Then from there, watch episode 14. Episode 15 isn't the worst,
You
but
know
you could
what?
honestly skip it and miss nothing.
You know what? Because we're going, let's save individual episodes thoughts into
No,
once
I'm
we
not.
get
I'm
to
not giving you.
episode.
I'm not giving you any major thoughts. I'm just saying, like, if you asked me if you wanted to reduce this season from 26 episodes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, 14, and then 15, 16 episodes I can reduce this season down to, and you
Okay.
can probably reduce it a bit more than that, and you've gotten rid of all of the episodes that I feel like just drag, that they do nothing, they go nowhere, they give you nothing new. That's a problem with this season. And I know you love this show, and I hate to come on and rag on it so hard, but this season
Dude,
did
it's
feel like
okay.
it dragged.
Like I just said myself, I think it's one of the weaker seasons, even though there are a lot of stuff I love about it. There are also a lot of stuff that I agree with you. It did drag. And again, think of it as I think we mentioned that in previous season too. You're watching it. You're watching it as a binge. I watched these episodes as they were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So I also had the idea that I was waiting every week or after every break they took, and I'm like, okay, what's the next episode going to be? And then I'll get something that's And it did break me a bit as well. I'm not going to lie to you.
That's fair. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, right? Like, let's be clear, I don't hate it. There is good stuff here.
Yeah,
but it
which
did
we'll
feel
get to.
like I had to slog through a lot of meh to get to the really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Okay.
again, overall, it was okay. I think that's why it was overall okay.
Okay, so before we start with episode by episode, some stuff regarding the voice cast that we need to mention. One, I forgot to mention this last time because I honestly forgot, and that's a really bad thing on my part. But Ice Cream Kitty, all of the grunts it makes, all the sounds that come out of it, that's Kevin Eastman, who's one of the co-creators of the Ninja Turtles. So
cool.
There you go.
That's, I mean, it explains why Ice Cream Kitty is best kitty.
Yeah, basically. And the other thing, which we started talking about it last time, which was Leonardo's now permanent voice actor, new voice actor. It was previously Jason Biggs, who was supposedly fired from the show because of using language on his Twitter, which was connected to the Ninja Turtles account, which Nickelodeon didn't appreciate. That's supposedly the reason. I'm still not entirely sure if that's 100% the case. So he was replaced by Dominic Cottonbone for the remaining of season 2, and now we have the new voice, permanent voice that would be Leonardo's voice throughout the rest of the show. That's Seth Green, who people may know as the creator of Robot Chicken and also as the voice of Chris Griffin in Family Guy.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think about Seth Green as Leonardo?
I think he did good here. Like, I liked his voice for Leo. I think he did good. I think he was a good replacement.
I agree. I think he's good, and also, considering that the theme of this season is pretty much growing up, because also the Turtles don't have Splinter for a lot of this season, so
they don't grow up very well, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, but considering that now Leo really has to step as a leader and everything, I think the new voice suits this idea.
Yeah, I think it works really well.
Mm-hmm. And also, considering we'll get to it, the first act he has to go through as Leonardo is a pretty tough arc to pull off for an actor.
Yeah.
And as your first act in a new character that you are just inherited from someone, that's respect that he could pull it off as well as he did.
Yeah, he does well.
And I might still prefer Jason Biggs' voice just a tiny bit, but Seth Green is great, and if we had to get anyone, I'm happy it's him.
Like, yeah, they did really. Yeah, their replacement choice was really well done. I agree. Like, if they would have kept Jason Biggs, I would have been happy with that too. But I think either way, they still made a good choice here, and he did really well in the role.
Yeah. By the way, I love that there's an in-universe explanation.
Which is dumb. They didn't need to do that.
I know why they did it, and honestly, in terms of in-universe explanations, they could have done worse.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing ever. Absolutely, like they absolutely could worse, but they didn't even need to draw attention to it. Like the VA changed. We get it. We know. You don't need to but the immersion for the kids. No one cares. No one cares.
And considering the 80s show had voice actors change like every other week or something, this is really nothing new for Ninja Turtles fans, but okay, whatever. So with that said, episode by episode, starting now, within the woods.
Spoilers.
So, spoilers for season 3 from this point onward. If you haven't watched season 3, this is your chance. Close it, go watch it, come back. With that said, spoilers from now on. Within the Woods, episode 1. So you said you liked this episode.
Yeah, I like the recap with April here at the start with the narration and her writing and drawing in the journal and everything. I like that. That's a good way to introduce us to what's been going on since we've left New York, right? And just how everyone's coping. It's good. I like that beginning.
And like I said, this entire idea that the Turtles have been defeated and they're retreating for the O'Neill farmhouse, this is a reference to both the comics and the first live-action movie, in which this does happen. There's like a VA from April as she's drawing some of the things that are happening. This is a This is a clear reference to that, and this is not the last time we'll see it. But so this is a reference, and I really like that.
We get introduced to our new parody / ripoff show, which in this time I think is He-Man, correct?
The name of the show is Krognar the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Which I also thought I also thought He-Man, which it's also He-Man, but there's another show with the Barbarian in the title, which is apparently
Conan the Barbarian.
No, not Conan. Something else. I'm not sure what.
There's a newer show that I think released on Cartoon Network. You don't mean Dave the Barbarian, do you?
No.
Because that's something very new. This seems to be mostly old
I'm not
shows.
sure what. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the name of it was, but it's mostly He-Man, and I do like that. This Krognard show is apparently about such a buffoon that will never grow up when the theme of this season is growing up. I like that contrast. So that's cool. And I also like how they are pretty much watching it because there's nothing else to watch. This is like their only form of entertainment. So, might as well go with it.
It's not... it might be Thundar the Barbarian.
Yes, that's what it was. Yes.
Did not know that was a thing. Yeah, that's absolutely what it is, looking at some of the images. All right, so Thundar the Barbarian, that's what it is.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I never knew what Tundra, what that show was until that parody. So there you
I
go.
just now learned about that it was a thing. So, but yeah, it's I knew I thought it was He-Man. He-Man's the thing that stood out most to me. Apparently not He-Man. It's Thundar the Barbarian.
Yeah.
I probably made a lot of
Uh,
people feel bad about their
like
childhood. That
I'll
their
tell you
shows
this
just
much. I'll tell you this much. I thought it was He-Man too. So, oops. Um,
we're making a lot of old
okay.
people feel even older, and we're making a lot of old people like, oh, they don't know about a show that I watched when I was a kid. That's right, because it's a bad show. Deal with it.
Not necessarily. Not
Don't defend them.
necessarily.
It's a
But
bad show. Deal with it. Boom. I said it.
okay. Okay.
Just like
So
this show,
speaking
it's a
of it,
bad show. Boom. I said it.
before you say that, let's talk about the first episode. So I like what they're doing with I like what they're doing with Leo in this episode.
When did this? Yes,
That
it did. Okay, that explains some stuff. Looking at this episode list, a lot of these first few episodes are very much Halloween themed and focused.
Yeah, I was about to bring this up. There are a lot of Halloween
And
episodes
looking
in
at
the
the air
first.
dates, we get October 3rd, October 10th, October 17th. That
Yeah, they
explains
will.
so much.
Yeah, they like planned for this to be the Halloween episodes. So
And they are good. They didn't do bad with it, right? By no means, like, is
mhm.
it bad or anything. They did really good with it. Like, they're good Halloween themes.
Yeah.
They drag a bit, but they are
Uh,
fun Halloween themes.
hmm So in the first,
Mostly.
so going back to the first episode, I do like this episode for Leo specifically because out of the defeat that the turtle suffered, he pretty much had the roughest, I think, because he took a personal beating to the shredder. He was the one that was knocked out,
Mm-hmm.
and and him and now he has crutches. He has troubles with his leg. He took that beating the hardest out of them all, and you can see it on him. And also the performance. You can just tell this guy is down. This guy is
Mm-hmm.
on is at rock bottom, and it is kind of unsettling and at the same time interesting to see the leader hitting that spot because other versions won't necessarily let Leonardo get this low. And there you go. The leader is a quote unquote human, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, they show a lot of other stuff going on here too. Like they show Raph taking charge in a way that's interesting to see, right? Like he actually steps up really well for this episode and some of the episodes within this first half. Like he does kind of step up really well and really, take in that role of being quote unquote interim leader for a bit fairly well, I would say, right? Like he does the position way better than he has previously. And he
Yeah.
handles it in a way like and you do see what feels like some growth because you don't see Raph being just completely angry all the time. There's actually some emotion there that's other than anger. Like he's not as flanderized, especially in this first episode. Like you see something different from Raph. You see something different from all of them. That's
Yeah, because
good.
again,
Too bad
yeah,
they
because
don't
again,
give us
all of
more of that.
them, yeah, again, all of them suffered a pretty great defeat, and what can
But I
you
mean, this
do?
is
This
good. It's
is,
nice to see more from the turtles and not see them so flanderized. Now,
as much as I nag about this season for a bit, I will say that the credit for the entire show, the characters never feel friendalized.
I
This is something.
disagree
Eh,
wholeheartedly.
okay, we'll get to that because I'm talking with the other season under my belt probably.
The
So
seasons might the other season 4 season 5 might change that, but I definitely disagree about the characters being flanderized. But going
at
back to
least
episode
here.
1, um we should mention like our big villain is the creep in this episode, which is
Yeah.
basically a Michael Myers thing if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a Michael
Or no,
Myers a
not Michael
bit.
Myers, Jason is what it is. It's
Yeah,
Jason.
yeah, kind of Jason, and also I'll even say, a bit of the Thing also.
Yeah, you could say the thing a little bit, but I would say more so Jason since it's
Yeah,
kind of farmhouse and the
yeah,
overalls
Farmhouse. They were obviously going for Friday the
and the whole
13th.
like
Yeah.
worshiping the mutagen thing, like definitely more of like like Jason worships his mom, stuff like that in those movies. So definitely more like Halloween stuff. This is done really well. They do this pretty well. I think they do manage to make it seem fairly creepy, even though it's not creepy at all. They manage to try at it and do it fairly well. Like, it works.
Yeah, I agree.
FYI, Casey died twice in this episode. Dude had a car fall on him.
Yeah.
And he's not dead, but he would definitely be dead if that car fell and landed on him and just sat on his chest. Like, dude just died. Dude literally is dead.
Honestly, how many, something, Leo having a broken foot, how many legs would he have broken considering everything he went through in the previous episode?
Oh, all of them would be. I mean, the turtles are mutants, right? So, like, that.
Yeah.
But Casey is, literally human, has a car fall on him. It's not from a great height, but still has a car fall. Dude would be dead. His chest would be crushed. Then also you see like the creep mutant take him up and throw him against a tree, and he bounces in a way where his back and neck are definitely broke. He's dead again. He dies twice in this episode.
Yeah.
Canon is that Casey is dead and he's a ghost now, or he's actually a mutant and they just don't know it. He is dead.
Well, enjoy that headcanon. But overall,
because
I
he
think
should be dead.
Yeah. So a good opener, and a good Halloween episode.
Yeah. I would agree. Like, this starts us off. It's not the strongest start, but it's definitely a good start from what we got ending wise of season 2. Like, this is a good way to lead us back into the season and kind of show us everyone and what they're all dealing with after the ending of season 2. This is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we are going to episode 2.
Oh God, this episode.
And before you say anything, let me tell you, remember when I said my most hated episode of the show
I'm
is
not
from
surprised
this
by
season?
that.
Well, this is my most hated episode of the entire show.
I'm not surprised by that.
And I'm sorry, you are not going to change my mind out of it, because this episode is terrible and I had no idea what the hell they were smoking. But let's get into it. So,
a foot too big.
Yeah, so as the title says...
We're not dealing with the Foot Clan. It's Bigfoot, if you're curious. It's Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's Bigfoot. And, it's not a mutagen that makes Bigfoot. It's not something that... No. Bigfoot just exists.
Which, that's fine.
This world.
That's fine. I can deal with. That's not a thing that, breaks this episode. What breaks this episode is that Bigfoot falls in love with Donnie.
Okay, before we get to that,
but that's not the worst part of this episode, by the way.
That's not the worst part.
Not even slightly.
Episode. The worst part kind of connects to the villain, the Finger. Which...
This dude is all sort of fun. This was my reaction to the first. It's like, okay, Bigfoot, neat. All right, that'll be an interesting thing. Then we get the Finger. Okay, this dude's a little bit weird. Okay, he wears his mom around his neck, his mom's a shrunken head who he talks to and does the voice for, and he wears the shrunken head around his neck. My reaction was, the fuck was this?
Okay,
this is gonna be an episode.
Just quickly getting voice acting out of the way.
After that, my reaction was, okay, sure, I guess we're doing this.
Okay, so basically, just a few things about the voice cast, because I just found this out today and it blew my mind. Okay, so Bigfoot is voiced by, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this name, Dietrich Bader, who is the voice of Batman in Batman the Brave and the Bold. Okay, and then the Finger is voiced by Jesse Ventura. Now,
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura. Now, are you going to ask me what else this guy has done?
Sure.
He was the 38th governor of Minnesota. And
I'm looking at that now.
And this is apparently the only voice work he's ever...
No. He has done, I guess, acting, you would say, before, because he was a professional wrestler.
Okay. okay, doesn't really.
He also was in the film Predator as Blaine.
Oh, okay. I'm talking. I'm talking voice. So, but this was such. I just read this and I was like, this is such a random person to bring on the show, and for such a weird character as well. But okay, sure. What can I say? Anyway, now that we got these two out of the way, let's talk about the plot of the episode. Because
So the
oh
plot
boy.
of the episode is the Fingers hunting Bigfoot because reasons, sure, why not? And Bigfoot and
By the way, I had a colleague in college who is exactly like the Finger in terms of his mother tells them what to do every step of the way, and I'm pretty sure
does
if
he
one
do
day
a
he wanted to
voice
say,
for her?
uh,
Does he wear her shrunken head around his neck?
when she'll die, he'll probably will. I'm willing to put money on this.
And you're friends with this person?
I was until I realized how much of an idiot he is, and if he's listening to this, he doesn't know English. So what do I care?
Good that you're no longer friends. But yeah, this episode. So yeah, the Finger is hunting Bigfoot, and they're both in the woods near the O'Neill farmhouse, apparently.
Yeah.
So
what are the odds?
Yeah, what are the odds? I will give it this. There is some okay-ish humor here. Like when Bigfoot sees Ice Cream Kitty, that was kind of funny. That got me to laugh, I will admit, because they both yell at each other, and then Bigfoot just throws the fridge that Ice Cream Kitty is living in out of the house. That got a laugh out of me, I will admit, the way Ice Cream Kitty reacts. But that's not so much because of Bigfoot, that's because of Ice Cream Kitty.
Yeah, exactly.
Ice Cream Kitty is best kitty and will always be.
Anyway,
but,
so
yeah, they find the turtles find Bigfoot, and they find out that Bigfoot's hurt. Also, hey, Bigfoot apparently knows ninja moves.
Yeah, turns out
Bigfoot,
who'd have thought?
Maybe they're doing a thing there where monkey see, monkey do. Like maybe that's what they're trying to do or trying to reference,
Maybe.
right? But it still feels a bit weird in a way. Like Bigfoot's apparently this super badass fighter. Who knew?
Who knew? But then we have.
But yeah,
we have, like you said, the main thing that happens is that all of a sudden Bigfoot falls in love with Donnie.
They rescue Bigfoot. They help, get Bigfoot back on her.
Who's the hell, by the way?
Yes, her feet.
Bigfoot's a she.
Like, we find, you're led to believe that Bigfoot is just Bigfoot, and then, like, they help, Bigfoot out. They patch Bigfoot up because Bigfoot got hurt, and then Bigfoot all of a sudden, can apparently talk somewhat and tells Donnie that, Bigfoot is a her and that she likes Donnie now. She's fallen in love with Donnie.
Yeah.
And we should mention, right, like, this is all kind of wrapped around in the idea of we have previously in this very episode of Donnie being kind of a love-struck puppy around April still, right? And following her around and being too obsessive.
We'll get to that.
But the thing with this is that we now have Bigfoot doing the same thing to Donnie, and I think it's Raph who points this out to Donnie. Right, because Donnie doesn't like Bigfoot, right? And it's the way this episode frames it. It seems like April also doesn't like Donnie as well in a way.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I have some stuff to say about it, but I'm saving it for the end, and you probably know why.
I'm mentioning it kind of just going through the episode as I remember it.
Yeah, but the thing is that rumors obviously started going around the house. That
rumors. They're not rumors. Everyone knows. Everyone just laughs at him for it.
It was a figure of speech because I'm angry and I have to use figures of speech in order to somewhat get through this episode.
Fair.
So anyway, so Leo and Casey make fun of it, the entire thing, and Bigfoot hears. She starts crying and she runs away because she's hurt. So obviously Donnie. We
should also mention April gives Bigfoot a makeover, and that's what they're making fun of her for, because Bigfoot with a makeover is basically just even creepier looking Bigfoot, or scarier looking Bigfoot.
Well, makeup can make people more scary.
This is true.
So, So Bigfoot runs away, and Donnie is going to search for her. Raph tags along, and in the woods they come across the finger, who found this prey and everything. So, do you want me to say it, or do you want the honors?
No, go for it. I'm just
Okay,
going to
so
go mute and scream for a bit.
okay, so basically, as the goes on, what happens is that at one point Bigfoot picks up the finger. Bigfoot looks at the finger looks at Bigfoot. Both of them fall in love with each other, and they go to the woods to live happily ever after.
Yep. Yeah, the finger finds out Bigfoot is a lady and says he can't attack a lady, and he says he never would have hurt a lady, and he apologizes to his mama for ever trying to hunt a lady. And he's there crying. Bigfoot walks over, picks him up, says she'll take care of him. I don't want to know what that means.
They have a background around them as this happens.
Yeah.
For the love of God, I don't want to know. Just delete this image from my mind. And then, at this point, okay, fine, weekend episode. I don't care. A lot of great shows have weekend episode. But the ending to this is the reason why I hate this episode so much. It pisses me off for two reasons.
Really?
Yeah. So one, like we said, this entire Bigfoot thing is kind of like telling because Donnie is still has a crush on April. He still tries to impress her and get close to her, but April isn't really interested for reasons, which is supposed to be obvious. And then so Donnie having Bigfoot, it's like, you see now how April feels around you, and then they come trying to play, because Donnie does go to April to apologize. And, he does, I understand that you don't feel like this. I understand everything. And at first, I was about to say, you know what? Kudos for having balls to tell kids, sometimes the person you like isn't going to like you back.
Yeah.
And
you shouldn't obsess over them, right? Like, it's
wrong
to obsess over someone.
Yeah, it's wrong to obsess. It's wrong to force yourself. And if you love the person, you should respect and just try to go along as neutral friends. Mm-hmm. So I know people with this kind of problems. I know, so it's a very good message to teach. And it's also interesting for kids to know this, because kids are obsessive way more than adults.
If you've not figured it out from this long tirade about why this is a good thing, the show fucks it up.
Yeah, the show fucks it up royally.
Because they have April say, "Oh, that's not the case," and she kisses Donnie on the cheek,
on the cheek.
She kisses him, and that's it.
Yeah,
and the show ends. Yeah,
French. Yeah.
It's not French. She just kisses him. It's not anything long. It's not anything. It's just a very quick kiss and then walks away.
I'm just giving the general idea.
But the general idea, though, is wrong if you say French. That means something entirely different.
Fair point. The point is, it's Sonic 06 levels of... Ugh.
It's not that bad, but it is... Why did you do that? Like, you had a thing here where you could have ended this, I guess, because people like the idea of Donnie and April being together, but the point is that that'll never be the case, right? Because mutant turtle, human. And maybe there's other lessons you could take from this that might be good, but they had a good lesson here, and they still ruined it, right?
Yeah, so like I said, for one, there was a good lesson here which was ruined by this part. And also, the reason I don't like this, aside from the bestiality, which, if it's your thing, good for you, I'm not judging, but it's not my thing. But outside of that, there's this entire thing that after this episode, April goes to being completely uninterested in Donnie.
Yep.
Which
means nothing.
So this means not this happens, and then we just forget it
And
as
Donnie
if it never
still
happened.
does the exact same things after this. He still acts like that
Exactly.
love-struck
So
puppy. And that's an issue I have. That's a major issue. Like, that's something I didn't bring up, but that is a major issue I have with this season and with the show so far, is that we get these moments of character development that are just completely forgotten about an episode or two later. We're still dealing with the same stuff. We've not
but here's the thing,
moved.
that you say this about Donnie, but I'll say this is terrible for April, because because
It's terrible
you
for
know
all of the characters, in my opinion.
no, I'm talking about this situation, because this is terrible for April, because honestly, if these were two humans like Tinder, everyone, April would be April would be the school bitch. She is a bitch in this. I like this is the
She's
kind of
definitely, I'm not going to call her a bitch, but she's definitely leading Don. At that point, if you went from this episode to future episodes, the way like none of this matters, you would say, okay, at this point, she's leading Donnie on. And that's wrong, right? Like, I think you would agree with
yeah.
that. Like, at this point, it comes off as she's just leading Donnie on because reasons. Like, you have no reason to continue leading Donnie on like that.
Okay, and just for clarify, I character in this show far opposite than that. But in this specific case, this episode didn't do her any favor at all.
Yeah, it just wasn't a good episode, and the whole, as far as subplots go, there was no good subplots here, and as far as the main plot of the Finger and Bigfoot, it doesn't work. It was just a bad idea for an episode.
Indeed. So, with that said, next episode.
Yeah, let's move on. I'm curious.
Moving on to the third episode, Buried Secrets. So the turtles find a spaceship in the O'Neill farmhouse. It's the garage, right? Or
yeah, it's the basement, not the garage.
it's the basement. Yeah, it's the basement. They found a hidden spaceship there, and in that spaceship is April's mother.
Yeah.
Fun fact about her: mother is voiced by Renee Jacobs, who was the original voice of April in the '80s show.
Cool. Little neat thing, voicing the original April, so now voicing April's mom. Neat little thing. Neat little touch. I like that.
Yeah.
But,
with that said,
I like a small joke that I'll point out at the beginning. I like how they sent Leo down the steps into the the undiscovered basement first. Like, yeah, he's the injured one, so we're sending him first. That was funny. I like that. That was a good joke. You got me to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
I want to point out, like, I don't know. So my immediately the second they find her mom, I'm like, okay, she's lying. Like, the second she starts talking, like, she's lying. And then after that, we immediately get Michelangelo saying, I don't trust her. I'm like, you're right, Donnie. You're right, Mikey. You shouldn't. I don't either. She's absolutely lying. There's something wrong. And what do you know? There is.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figure too, because isn't kind of weird that, she has a mom that was in this because this is the O'Neill farmhouse,
We should be clear. Her mother isn't lying here. What she does, as far as I can tell, what she does tell them is the truth, because they do say, like, her mother, this creature, right, has her mother's memory. So her mother was captured by the Krang as they were trying to escape.
Yeah,
and the O'Neill family was experimented on by the Krang, right?
Yeah, this is an application which also explains April
being part Krang.
April. Yeah.
Yeah, like this does explain that, and it does give you a bit of backstory into that. And, so I think, like, what she is saying is the truth, but she isn't April's mother. She is some creature that the Krang created that the Krang couldn't control, so they cryo-froze her again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's that, but so overall, if we're ignoring the fact that they're pretty predictable, like, obviously, she's not really April's mom. It's a creature. And I did enjoy this episode.
It was all right. I guess, this is, you talked about The Thing earlier. This is the episode that's more referencing The Thing, where
maybe I talked about this one.
Where you can't trust anyone because, the Thing takes on the appearance of the people it takes over, right? This is The Thing. This is absolutely referencing The Thing. The previous episode, not the previous, episode 1 was referencing Jason.
It was more Jason. The Thing. I confused apparently.
Hello, vibrating phone. I heard that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There are elections soon, and everyone needs to text me about what are you voting for, which I react to. Fuck you, but that's another way. Anyway, back to the show. I did enjoy this one, and I also like how that creature is like, because at one point in this, when Mikey goes to apologize to April's mom, that creature gets him, and I like when he talks he has this whenever this creature takes over someone, they just they're zombified. They have this creepy smile on their face. I like that.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, that's a good Halloween episode.
I agree.
So, anything else about Buried Secrets, which other than I enjoyed it and I definitely did that?
The creature's very gross and disgusting looking. You didn't really need to do that, but sure, I guess.
Well, I think that's kind of because
but again,
it's
I guess, yeah, kind of body horror stuff. Got to do that too, I suppose, and physical, gross out horror, I guess. I'm very meh on that personally, but I get it. It does have its place, I suppose. But yeah, this was overall kind of, we learn a bit about April's family's past, so that's interesting, I suppose. But other than that, you don't really gain much from this. And
even though, for a filler, it was an interesting filler.
It was meh. It was okay. That's about the best I can give it, I think. I don't think it was anything that was knock out of the park great. It was just okay.
Okay.
It's better than the previous episode, that's for sure.
Yeah, but then again, every episode of the show is better than the previous episode.
This is true. But we should mention, we get, Mikey's the one who finds out, and everyone doesn't believe Mikey, and everyone's kind of on top of Mikey and telling him, hey, quit screwing up. And I think this does kind of lead into the next episode, which we can now talk about. So go ahead and introduce, because I'm segueing really well.
Yeah, so the next episode is The Croaking.
Which is basically a Mikey episode.
It's basically a Mikey episode where, despite being a Mikey episode, not one of my favorites.
Yeah, because we're referencing the god-awful Napoleon Dynamite meme. Woo. Was this back when Napoleon Dynamite was popular? It must have been.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's nowhere near.
The thing is that Napoleon Dynamite, John Hadel, is in this episode.
Yes, I know. He's the one who voices the frog, whose name is Napoleon.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this 10 years? This was 10 years later. Why do you dig up a 10-year-old meme for a show idea? Fuck this. Fuck the writers in this. God, I hate them. I hate them. They have no concept of humor. None. Every now and again, they get someone on who is a little bit funny and does something funny, and then they kill it with episodes like this, or they especially kill it with episodes like episode 2. God almighty, I hate it. I hate it.
It's fun. It's funny that you say that, because episode 2 and this episode were both directed by the same person.
No, they were not.
No, they did. Look at the episode list.
Written by. Okay, yeah, they were written by. The second episode was written by Doug Langdale. This episode was written by Kevin Burke and Chris Doc Wyatt, and Michael Chang, which is the one who directed them both. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate them both.
Okay, so I don't hate them as much as you do, but it is kind of this was an episode.
The second I heard his voice, I even wrote it down. The second I heard his voice, oh God, we're doing the Napoleon Dynamite thing, the Napoleon Dynamite meme thing. Please kill me.
Okay, but one thing I did like though, and it's a minor thing, but take what you can get. Is
I
that
guess.
for one, the tribe that Mikey finds, where the Napoleon guy is from, is the Punk Frogs, who they were a part of the '80s cartoon. Obviously different, but what does it matter? And the thing is that like the others are like doing research in the farmhouse about the punk frogs, and one of the pictures they have on screen is a picture of Michelangelo's design from the Michael Bay movies, but without the mask. So it's like, okay, that's if you need to make fun of this movie in one way, I guess might be one, calling them frogs. Sure,
Yeah.
go for it. I'll take it. What can you do?
Yeah, I will give this
Enough.
I will give this season this, right? Like they do have a good, in my opinion, something good that they do that I do want to give them credit for is that they have a good byline of, especially in these first couple episodes, where yes, we're using the mutagen more, but at the very least it feels more connected because we have the issue of like these frogs are mutated because of what happens in a former episode, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that because that's good. That's a good, at least way. That's a good connecting line. That's a good byline throughout these couple episodes. Things feel more connected even when they still feel disjointed, right? It's nice to have that. It's nice to have that byline, that through line of, okay, we have a connection here. There's a continuation here. Even if it's small, it's something to kind of stay attached to as far as a continuing storyline goes, even though it's not a continuing storyline. It's just this mutated, which ended up causing this thing to mutate because things happened. It's something, at least, I can attach to, It's something good that I do want to give them credit for. Because I've been doing a lot of hating. I don't have much to say about this episode other than it's Napoleon Dynamite. Mikey runs away because he thinks his brothers hate him and don't respect him. Napoleon Dynamite's kind of the same thing. An outcast who no one likes or respects. They both end up getting, respect after they do a good for both of their peoples.
Yeah. So it's some pretty meh episode. I don't
it's
care
kind
for
of
it much.
It's a bit of I guess this is kind of their, a little bit anyways. Actually, a lot of this season feels a lot. Well, not a lot, but 2 episodes of this season, and the finale being one of them, and this episode being the other, kind of have a quote-unquote environmental thing going on. Like the frogs hate humans because the humans have been destroying their land and everything like that. So that's why the frogs try to get rid of Casey and April to save the turtles because they think they've enslaved them and stuff like that. And I mean, it's all right. Like, it's nothing major, but it's kind of, that's what fuels the conflict here. And then they save the Frog King, and so he's like, okay, maybe you're not all bad. All right. And then they kind of go their separate ways after that.
So with that said, we have episode 5, In Dreams.
Now, this one I liked. This I thought was clever because it didn't involve any mutagen. It was just, it didn't involve, we're in a completely new area. Let's do something new with this new area. So this is another kind of Halloween-themed episode. This is our Freddy Krueger episode.
And you say that, and one of the voice actors for these beavers is none other than Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund.
Cool. That's actually really cool. I like that.
So,
and we should mention the Freddy Krueger alike in this show, in this world, is beavers. 4 of them.
Yeah. 4 beavers, and that's something interesting that there are 4 beavers, but Robert Englund voices 2, and the other guy, John Cassir, who people may know as Buster Bunny from the Tiny Toons, he's voicing the other 2.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, 2 people, like 1 actor, 2 beavers, which shows that these guys have range. So that's cool. And like you, I enjoyed it. It's honestly you can tell that these nightmares are kind of playing to the characters. Like Leo has a dream where his leg is fine again, and then once it's like it's fun again, the trouble starts.
Well, I mean, he dreams he becomes a superhero, in fact, and gets super strength and super speed and all that after touching a meteor that falls. Donnie dreams about being back in the city and just kind of running away from everything. I don't really get his kind of dream.
Because they kind of make it look because Danny is the smart guy, so he's a lover, not a fighter.
I disagree with that. I don't think it has any kind of connection to anything for Donnie, really. Like Raph's dream.
I'm not saying that I agree. Just saying what they tried to get across.
And Raph's dream.
You want to talk about it?
I mean, Raph's dream. Like, what are they trying to get across there? That he's angry? Because heavy metal is an angry thing? Like, really?
Yeah, that,
As someone who listens to heavy metal, I'm not angry at all. I hate the show.
Well, I won't say heavy metal, but my best friend is really into metal. And depending on the mood, she can be angry, but
anyone can be angry depending on the mood. Like you can be someone who only ever listens to opera. God bless your poor soul, and still be an angry person. Like, so I mean that means nothing. But you're welcome.
Wow.
That's right. I dissed opera right there. But I don't know. The dreams are a bit weird, but they are dreams, so it's not.
It's dreams.
Deal. Yeah, it's dreams, so not a big deal. Like I said, I still enjoy this episode, but if you're going to talk about, hey, let's connect the dreams to the characters, no, that doesn't work. It works a little bit for Leo, but nothing else. There's nothing other like here that's going on, and and Mikey's dream is just sunshine and rainbows and candy. So, but I mean, I guess it's Mikey, so what do you expect?
And that's why Michelangelo's. This is obviously the best dream to be a part of. Like, I want this candy. I want to be happy.
I don't want to be happy. I guess that's what you can take away from this.
Well, there you go. Because
I am an old grump. I am an old grump.
Well,
and this show does nothing to make me not an old grump.
Aside from sending the guy with the crutch as the first one to check the basement, that's the only thing.
It has a few moments of taking away my old grumpness. For a brief moment, I become an old man who's happy, not an old man who's a grump.
So with that said,
not
much to say about this one. I enjoyed it for what it is.
Yeah, it definitely it's more filler for this first filler half of the season, but it's good filler, I would say. Like it's good. It's a good episode. It does something different with this new area that we're in, and it kind of gives us a bit with this old man who's apparently been awake for 40 years trying to keep these beavers who come from another dimension, right? Because we have more dimensions out there, apparently. It introduces us to a bit of that. And this old man's been trying to keep them at bay because he locked them away in a device that they can't get out and they can only affect you in the dreams. So they decide, hey, let's destroy the device and get the beavers out. And apparently the beavers aren't as scary or big or anything as they look like when you bring them into the real world. So they're immediately nudging them with the bat and telling them, hey, leave. And they're like, okay, we'll leave. We thought we'd be stronger here. We're obviously not, so we're gone. So they were way more powerful.
To quote himself from Freddy versus Jason, not strong enough, I see. Well, I will be soon enough. This is such a stupid line. I'm sorry. Because who is he saying that to?
That's the Freddy versus Jason movie, right?
Yeah.
That movie's great. Screw you. That movie's great.
It's great when they're fighting.
It's great all around. That movie's absolutely ridiculous. That movie's great in every way. Even the stupid lines are great.
No. I agree that, it's one of the... It's like The Room. It's so bad, it's good.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what that movie is.
I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm sorry. This movie is something else. But anyway, next one.
This is a good episode. It's a very good filler episode.
So next one is Race with the Demon.
This was, again, I did recommend you skip many of these episodes, but this is another one I say if you don't skip it, this one you'll have some fun with too.
Yeah, because
mostly.
another reference here is that in the comics and the first movie, it's Donnie and Casey who are walking on the car, on fixing something together. So I like how they worked that in.
We
That
do really, really hammer home on the whole love triangle dynamic thing this episode, though. And we've been wearing on it for quite a few episodes now, and it's getting really thin at this point. And this episode decides to just focus on it, right?
Yeah, but aside from that, I did enjoy the mutant
Dynamic.
in this,
Oh, go ahead.
like the speed demon.
Yeah.
I did, which by the way is voiced by Steve Bloom, who has way too many voice credits to his name.
Yeah.
For good reasons. He is awesome, but
Steve Bloom's in everything. If you've watched, played, or anything you've watched or played before, you've probably heard Steve Bloom in at least one of those things.
But two standout roles, I guess. One that is Wolverine in basically anything X-Men related in recent years, and he also voiced the Green Goblin in the best Spider-Man cartoon ever made, The Spectacular Spider-Man.
Into the Spider-Verse disagrees with you.
I said show, not movie.
Well, you said cartoon. Into the Spider-Verse is technically cartoon. Okay, it's just a movie.
Okay, you know what? Fair point. So the best Spidey animated show. There you go.
Fair enough.
Because Spider-Verse is indeed amazing. But that's a topic.
It's an animated movie,
day.
and it's just the best animated Spider-Man ever. But anyways.
Okay, so with that said, I just enjoyed it because it's kind of my thing. At the same time, it's kind of like it's about speed. So I like speed. Give me speed, and you give me fast action sequences. I'm down. And also, but when the speed demon gets Donnie, what the hell is that design?
That feels like I think that's kind of a reference to an old thing as well, but I forget what exactly. But it definitely puts me in the mind of something I've seen in the past, but I just cannot remember.
Yeah, it reminds me of something like I can't put my finger on it, and I don't know.
Wacky Races comes to mind, but that's not what I'm thinking of because this is more a monster thing. There's a thing I'm thinking of, but I just can't remember it. There's an old Scooby-Doo movie that I think also references this with Shaggy and Scooby kind of being in a monster race thing and racing a race car against other monsters. That's a thing that exists that comes to mind. I don't think this is a reference to that, but I think both of these things reference an old thing that existed in the past.
But basically, I have no idea what for as weird as hell as it is.
We should say, like, the speed demon, the speed demon is a car that is mutated, right? And we should also mention that, like, it eats its riders and they end up mutating when it does. Like, this thing ate Donnie, and so Donnie mutates into something even more to race the speed demon car, right? Like, he's now the driver because the original driver gets thrown out and unmutates and becomes human again, apparently.
You know something, like Steven Neely, the showrunner of this, was also the showrunner on the 2003 Teen Titans. And this reminded me of one episode of Teen Titans, like when Cyborg built his car and the car goes haywire.
Yep.
That kind of reminded me of that.
It does. I would agree. Like, this is not a bad episode by any means. It does connect to a previous thing where we see where this car became mutated in the past and where that mutagen came from. That's a nice little thing, I suppose. I
don't have much to say, but it's enjoyable.
I do have two things I'll point out. I like the dynamic between Donnie and Casey, and you kind of see them grow in this episode, and that's nice. As well, excuse me, Doc Cluckingsworth is great.
Yeah,
it's just a chicken. We do end up getting a mutation that actually doesn't just immediately become an enemy for once. A chicken drinks some mutation and ends up becoming an extremely smart chicken. It's just super chicken now. It's super genius chicken. Although it still can't talk, it just clucks at everything. But it is super genius chicken, and it knows how to do computers and stuff now. That's cool. I like that. That was a nice way to do the mutagen that didn't turn into an enemy or something gross and disgusting or just absolutely ridiculous. Nice.
I agree.
You can use a mutagen in clever ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Woo.
Chickens are cool.
Also,
So with that said,
this is where I
yeah.
noticed where something started to bug me. Like, we started to have so many of these episodes where, and this is what I was pointing out, like, these are episodes I think you could skip because you lose nothing from them.
Mhm.
What happened to New York? What happened to the rest of the world? We're getting no mention of that whatsoever. Like, we even have a newscast in this show about the speed demon, and they mention nothing about New York or the invasion. Now, I will
Good
give the
point.
show this. They do explain why, but it just feels like, why does no one mention anything? Why does no one bring up the fact that, hey, why is no one talking about New York? Why is nothing coming from that? Like,
Mhm.
they never mention anything about it. It's like it's just completely forgotten. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's an issue because the world is a thing. It does exist. The turtles aren't in this world alone. There are
Mhm.
other people, there are other things in this world. You did pretty well about showing this in season 2. Why did you forget it for the first half of this season?
Agreed. Agreed. You know, that's a good point. Never thought about it.
It bugs me.
Well, it will bug you for not so long because we're getting close to heading back. But
This is
before that,
true. One more
before that
episode
we had
though.
episode 7, Eyes of the Chimera.
Chimera.
Chimera. Thank you. So I have a question for you. Seeing how we both are How to Train Your Dragon fans, did this remind you of anything?
No.
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 I don't
If you're
know.
gonna say
Maybe.
like this reminded you of How to Train Your Dragon, I guess that's neat for you. It did not me. How to Train Your Dragon did not come to mind for this one. It did later,
Really?
but not for this one.
Hmm. I don't know. There's something about this one that kind of maybe because they are flying in the air or something. Some of the shots or just kind of put me in How to Train a Dragon mood. I guess.
I don't know.
I don't. I
This
don't
one
know.
didn't for
This.
me.
You know, it's not like I'm like, oh, like yeah, How to Train a Dragon is like all over this. Not in this, but you know,
I
I'm
guess,
just
are
sad.
you talking about the cloud scenes or
Yeah, the cloud sense.
I guess maybe I can see it, but they didn't put that into mind for me, really, personally.
I don't know. Maybe I think it's just I was but considering when this aired, I might have been it might have been my How to Train a Dragon fanfic phase. So maybe that's why I was thinking about it. I'm not sure,
Maybe.
but but the point is, it crossed my mind when I was watching the episode.
So, I didn't make too many notes on this one. This one didn't really stick out to me. We have a continuation from the last episode of, when the speed demon explodes, it ends up mutating a falcon and a fish and a worm.
Yeah,
And that's how we end up
all
getting,
together.
yeah, so that's why, hence Chimera. And that's why we end up getting this episode of basically getting to see a falcon fish worm thing. It's disgusting looking, I assure you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, hey, we get Donnie testing out April's psychic abilities, and apparently she ends up temporarily losing her sight because it gets connected to this thing's sight, so she
Yeah.
sees what this Chimera sees.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up fighting it. This thing ends up kidnapping Casey, Raph, Mikey, and Donnie, and it leaves April and Leo to try and get to where they're at and save them and save the day, except both of them are currently disabled. April's blind,
Yeah.
and Leo is basically, I don't want to say
Yeah. He's
crippled, but
handicapped.
he's definitely handicapped. Yeah, he's handicapped, right?
Yeah, this is, but two things I like about this is one, it does something that I do like. I've probably mentioned this in other stuff that I like the idea that even the blind person and the handicapped person can achieve something together despite that setback, and it doesn't make them useless, which I like. And the other thing is that Leo and April are an interesting dynamic.
I think they work
It's
well
not.
together.
Yeah, it's not. They're obviously friends, but you don't really see the both of them do something by themselves. Aside from the rest of the Turtles and Casey. So it's nice to let them, have their episode where they save the day together.
It's an
I like
interesting
it.
dynamic that you wouldn't expect to see normally, and it's nice that we get something like that. I like this. It kind of subverts your expectations a bit in the
I
characters
should
you expect to
say,
see working together.
yeah, I should say in this show specifically because they can, I know did this, but in this show we didn't have this until that point. So I applaud it. It was good. And that's really it, I guess. It's like you said, it's one of those skip, but at the same time, if you choose not to skip it, you won't be wasting your.
You're
It's
not
a
going to
good,
get
it's a good one.
anything bad per se, but you're not really going to gain anything other than like seeing finally, Leo overcome his handicap and learn to not and kind of learn to not be so down on himself with his leg being bum at the moment, right? And you see April yeah, having a pep talk with Leo and stuff like that, and you kind of see them work on this and they get things out and they defeat the Chimera, but they don't defeat the Chimera because we see at the end of the Chimera is still alive and maybe comes back, maybe doesn't, who knows. The show doing its thing again of the villain's not quite dead yet, maybe, haha. We might bring it back.
Well,
Ha-ha.
I don't think the Chimera was necessarily a villain. It was,
It's the obstacle. It's the thing the heroes need to overcome for this episode.
yeah, and it was just, it just a creature living its life. That's so in this case, I don't
A
necessarily
creature
need
that
it
is
to
mutated thanks to the fall of the turtles, that is basically, according to its nest, has killed many, many humans in the short time
Yeah.
that it's been mutated. So
Okay, fair point.
probably does need to be killed. But anyways, but yeah, like you're
Well,
not. It's an okay episode.
it's an okay one, and then we get
The more
episode
interesting
8,
episode.
Vision Quest. This is a
Finally.
great episode.
Yes.
This is a great one.
We finally get something where we're kind of like, hey, we're training, we're getting ready to go back to New York, so now we're finally training, everyone's taking it more seriously. This I liked. We see all the turtles go off, and so they're on a vision quest now. They have to overcome their greatest obstacles within themselves.
And I do like the kind of explanation for it that, as ninjas, they need to have like a connection with their environment.
With nature, yeah.
Yeah, and in this specific, Leo outright states that they did lost connection with nature.
And Leo says this after getting his butt kicked by a deer.
Yeah, this was a bit.
That was a little bit silly, but other than that, like, it works really well. I feel like so we have Mikey's biggest obstacle being that he
Before the obstacles, I don't want to mention. They have the scene near the fireplace with Splinter.
Mm-hmm.
They again clear reference to the 90s movie where there's a scene like this as well. The thing is, why I think it's done better here than in the movie is that in the movie it was suggested that they are talking to that by meditating they can talk to him telepathically. Like, because, and in here he's not necessarily talking to them, but it's kind of like what they think Splinter would have told them in this situation.
I feel like it is him talking to them because he does tell them that his mind isn't with his body right now, and he does kind of explain to them and tell them things that they find out later that are true. So it kind of is him talking to them. It's just not a telepathic thing. It's very much a vision thing.
It's almost spiritual.
And a thing of meditation. So that, at the very least, I can say, like, it does make sense, especially for what some of the stuff that comes later. It's more of that mysticism stuff, that Middle Eastern ninja mysticism stuff, which does make sense with the turtles, right?
Yeah, so it's not telepathic, which I give.
It's just mysticism.
And what did you think about the Turtles Assassin's Creed outfits?
I liked it. I thought the outfit changes were nice. I thought it was neat.
Yeah, like, looking back,
I thought we were going to keep
obvious.
The weapons that we made too. Like, hey, we're finally getting an upgrade and everyone's going to kind of move on to these new stuff. And no, we just kind of forget about all that. We just bring the outfits back every now and again. That's it.
But I do want to say that, for something that was obviously made because they need to sell them toys.
Yeah.
I do like the designs of those things.
Oh yeah. It works really well. I agree. Like as far as designs go, it's a nice design change that we get to see every now and again. So if you want to sell toys, this was a good way to do it, I guess. But
And then we also have Kyle goes
repeat
into
that,
the tunnel
please.
and is like.
Repeat that a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You just broke up a
Okay.
little bit there for a moment.
Okay.
So repeat it.
So when Raph goes into the cave, and he's like, "So much for finding a hidden pirate ship." Yeah, we get it. Sean Astin was in the Goonies. We get it. Move on, please.
Gotta make the
But
jokes.
but yeah, I did like each turtle is like on his own, and it's not necessarily a group thing because then each one can conquer.
We should talk about like they have to overcome their greatest obstacles. Raph's greatest obstacle is his anger. He needs to learn to control it and use it to to strengthen him and fuel him further. Donnie's obstacle is that he uses his mind too much and he needs to learn to just use his body more and his own strength and be more confident in the strength that he does have and that he's not as weak as he seems to think he is. Michelangelo's greatest weakness is that his mind's too clouded. He needs to learn to focus more and stay more calm. And Leo's
by the way, this is interesting that because I'm not sure where exactly this was confirmed, but I think it was on the Nickelodeon site, which apparently this version of Michelangelo is confirmed to have ADHD.
Okay.
So, it's
interesting, I guess. I don't think that makes... I mean, I think that makes it worse.
Oh.
I maybe it's just me, but I don't have enough experience with it, so feel free to correct me, but I don't think it's represented well here if that is. It feels like they use... Like, if he has ADHD here, it feels like they're using that as a way to... I don't think they use it well. Maybe it's just me, but I think they represent if he has ADHD, it feels like okay, that represents ADHD in a way that I feel like you don't get it. I feel like you're just using that for a joke now, and that's wrong.
Here's the thing, just because it's written somewhere doesn't mean that's the intent of the show. I'm not sure about this. But...
Like they could have just said that to like, hey, we're being inclusive, that's a thing.
Yeah, it's this is how I got.
Nickelodeon's very meh when it comes to their inclusivity, and then saying we've always been inclusive. No, you haven't. You have issues, very many issues. But anyways, like, that aside, right? Like, I'm not sure they did it well here. Maybe someone with ADHD can come and tell me, no, they did it really well here.
As someone who has ADD, I will say I can see what they mean. I can if it was intentional.
Okay.
I can see what they were going for, and I won't say it's bad representation, but I get where you're coming.
That's fair. I think that's completely fair. Like again, I don't have enough experience with it and being around people with it
because in this specific case, like when they say his mind is too clouded, he needs to get. I can tell you from experience, there are maybe you can even see this whenever we record something that I'll have a point that I want to get to, but then all of a sudden I'll just sidetrack and digress way too much. So in this case, I get what they're going for here because you can kind of. Not just through medications because there are medications for this. But I do like that through this art Asian art style of ninjutsu and everything, you can kind of make the argument that it is possible to get through this without medication, and you can for a short bit. I get what they're trying to get across. It's not a temporal solution, but it's something, and I appreciate the intent. This is the intent,
I think like the intent is like hey, if that is the case, I think the intent isn't to say like hey, through ninjutsu or through this mysticism thing you can get through it. I think the intent is to say you can get through it yourself if you're willing to put in the ability, if you're willing to put in the time it takes to really focus and really narrow down, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. That, but for
Hmm.
Mikey in this sense, it's not medication. It's what he's been trained to do for most of his life.
Yeah, I can get that. I can get that and see where you're coming from. I do think there's the issue of, that you could bring up of like, hey, what about, if someone's unable to do that and they're trying but still unable to do that? Like, there's a lot there that you could unpack potentially if you involve that and start talking about that. And
Yeah.
you'd have to really ask, like, is it handled well? Is it handled well in this regard or that regard? Again, I don't know enough to say one way or another, so I'll just have to take you, at your word and say, like, hey, you really enjoy this. For someone who has to deal with that as well, for someone who has to go through with that, you really enjoy the representation for it. So I'll have to, like, defer to you on that and say, all right, that's great.
Because one of the reasons I do like it though is because it's not really being brought up
Yeah, that's
in
true.
canon.
It's not a
So
thing that's focused on.
I
It's like, hey, he has problems. He has ADHD or ADD. It's okay. It's okay that he acts that way because of that. Like, that would be really terrible to do, and there's
yeah.
shows that have done that way
So,
back when.
but
But
this was sidetracked a lot. We, let's
I blame you.
let's yeah, thank you. but Leo's fear is
Is that his
again
leg? Like, he thinks he'll never be able to lead his team and never be able to protect his team because he got hurt, and he has to overcome that and overcome the pain and realize that.
and I love the visual
Yeah, I love the visuals for all of them, especially Leo's. Though I think Leo's
yeah.
is the best, right?
Because that's obviously the one that the most focus on out of the four.
Yeah.
Because it kind of concludes that arc of I've been defeated. I need to get a hold of myself
Yeah.
and
Like, yeah, you
move
lost,
on.
but come back from it now and win the next time. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, this was a good episode. This is what more of what I expected to see after the ending of season 2, and I just didn't get that until 8 episodes in.
Yeah, that's a problem with the pacing. But
Like, that's
when you
definitely an issue, I feel.
but when we got it, it was really
Yeah, when we got it, it
so.
was great. I enjoyed this a lot. This was a good episode. I just wish I didn't have to go through, a good first episode, then 6 episodes of it was okay. There was some good stuff there, but it was just, it had nothing to it, and there was nothing that connected it to what we've previously experienced. Or at the very least, it was just more mutagen for most of it, and it's just like, we're in a completely new area. We're away from the mutagen. It would be nice to see something different, like the Dream Beavers, right? That was at the very least something different, right? That was very different, that had nothing to do with mutagen. Like, why didn't we get more of stuff like that that was something unique to this area?
Yeah, I agree. The
And
kind of a
one issue I
missed
do have with this
opportunity.
episode is that, yeah, we learn all of these things, but it doesn't feel like the characters grow from it, because it feels like we go back to some of these same wells later on in this very season of, they haven't really grown and learned from this apparent vision quest.
Yeah, okay, fair point.
Like, I don't get me
But
wrong, I like the episode, it's good, but it doesn't feel like our characters grow from it. Mikey still seems like he's they still make fun of, they still kind of have this thing later on in the season of Mikey being the screw up and the unfocused one. Raph's still the angry one. Donnie's the one who still relies too much on his mind and doesn't remember to be as strong as the mountain. And at the very least, Leo doesn't have this issue, I feel. Like, Leo consistently
yeah,
stays fairly good as far as leaders is. Like, he actually does have some growth here, it feels like. But the other 3 don't yet. And that's kind of a problem, I feel.
okay, that's a good point, and
But maybe
I'll
that's just
do
me.
that. But so just to close this episode, the final line in here, it's time to go back again, call back to when this was done in the comics, the movie, that when they're ready to go to New York, they tell in case it's time to go back, and that leads us to the next episode, the Return to New York, which considering how much this was built up, that the Turtles have to go back to New York, they have to face all the problems that there's fighting Splinter, take care of the Krang, and everything. And
It's
when they
fighting
get back to
Splinter? Oh, no, you said finding Splinter. I thought you said fighting
finding,
Splinter. Yeah. My bad. Sorry.
finding,
I heard fi and thought, oh, fighting. Like, wait a minute. We're not fighting Splinter. We're fighting Shredder. But no. My
Yeah,
bad.
but another thing is that when they go back, they don't have the shell razor, so they build the paddy wagon
Is
from
that a
the 80s
reference?
cartoon.
Yes, that's what I
It's
thought.
it's from the 80s cartoon.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So,
So
mhm.
they build the
And
van from the 80s cartoon. I thought that was a reference.
yeah, so they go back to New York, which again you can see how apocalyptic it is
Hmm.
because of all the crank droids and
I will mention.
also
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. I will mention right real quick that we do get an explanation for why we've not heard anything from New York, right? Like why no one's reporting on it at the very least, because they keep saying everything's fine, and the Krang have apparently taken control of the Earth Defense Force soldiers and stuff like that. That's at least an explanation for that. But it felt like, my opinion was, why didn't we get anything from the Turtles or April or Casey asking, like, hey, why is no one reporting on New York? Why is no one bringing that up anywhere, right? Like, that was my
Mhm.
issue. Like, none of these characters are bringing up, like, why is there such radio silence? And then all of a sudden we get to this episode and, like, we find out why there's radio silence. That's neat that you explained it. I like that. That's good. But it would have been nice to have a character mention it previously, so that way when we get this explanation, it feels like, okay, that's a question that's been answered. I didn't feel like I had to ask that question as an audience member. The show asked it for me. The show made mention of it, and the show made mention of it within the world. Right? It makes the world feel more lived in. If you get the explanation like this, it feels like it takes away from the world feeling lived in. Personally, is how I see it.
Mhm. Yeah, you have a
Like
point,
don't
but
get me
that's
like don't get me wrong. I don't want things explained to me. I'm not a child. I do get it. I can figure stuff out. But there is a point where not bringing something up for 8 episodes in a row as to what's going on and why no one's bringing it up, and just the complete radio silence feels odd and strange, in my opinion.
okay.
But moving
Fair.
on, discussion of episode
Yeah,
one.
but so I do like that. They do return to New York. They see everything that happened there. They also go back to their lair, and it's all and it's all messed up and everything.
Hmm.
That hurts. That like, and
I
then
don't
they
think it
also
hurts as
go.
much as seeing Splinter here, though.
Yeah, but then you get to Splinter, and that's oh.
Like he's apparently lost his mind somewhat, and he's regressed to just being a full-on rat, right? Like he's lost his
Yeah.
humanity now for a
that
bit.
that was that was really painful to see. And you said the mistake of fighting, and they do fight him
Yeah,
up.
they do.
That
Technically, they do have to
okay.
fight Splinter a bit here as they try to help Splinter regain his memory and everything. I want to mention out, like we don't talk about this enough, but the soundtrack in this episode really stood out to me. Like there's a lot of really good tracks in this episode, I felt, for like
Yeah.
backing stuff and everything. Like there was a lot of good stuff here. Like kudos to the people who do the soundtrack. We don't mention it enough, but you do very well. Like it's one of the very good consistent things about this show, I feel.
Yes.
It doesn't always stand out, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it does stand out, it stands out in a really good way, I feel. So really good, kudos to those people. Really good work there.
Mhm.
We don't mention it
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Agreed. And okay, so the next thing we have is in this. So yeah, they do manage to snap Splinter back to his senses,
And we see
which is
Splinter get
good.
to kick the ass of these Shredder
Yeah,
wannabes, I guess.
the food bots in a
They're not well, they're
sense.
not food bots. They're
Uh,
mutants. They're a mutant shrimp, a mutant crab, a
oh
mutant
yeah, right.
four-armed dude thing, and another mutant, and they're basically like, I guess, mutated with some of Shredder's DNA as well. And they're neat.
Okay, yeah.
Also, Splinter kills that four-armed dude. Like you hear the
Mhm.
fan blades chop that four-armed dude to pieces. He's dead. I know we
Yeah,
see him later, but they killed him right
but
there. I don't know why they brought him back. They shouldn't have brought him back because he died. He did. He died.
okay,
Splinter
fair
killed
enough.
him. He got chopped up
Uh,
into little crawfish or crab bits. He did.
mhm. Yeah.
But anyways,
But yeah, good episode.
yeah, we get our
Good
kind of
fallout.
reunion and everything. Everyone's back. We're back in New York. It's a good return episode.
Yeah, and then we have 10, Serpent Hunt, which you can kind of say that everything is kind of returning to form for the turtles. They fix their home and everything, and then but Splinter does.
They don't fix their home. We take up a new temporary home that they're fixing up, which is the pizzeria.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I jumped. But they do find a temporal base of operations. But even with the family back together, Splinter still wants to find Karai.
And so we spend this episode looking for her. And we're introduced.
Yes.
And we're reintroduced in this episode to
Zek and Stranko.
Yes. Who?
Wait.
Do you want to mention it now, or you want to wait?
Let's wait, because this is the big thing in this episode.
Sure.
So they do come the Zek and Stranko again, which still lovable characters. I still like them.
I enjoy them. I like them a lot. Zek, I think, gets a little bit overbearing in this episode, but overall, I still like the dynamic between these two. They are enjoyable characters, and it seems that they're trying to find a way out of the city, so they decide they'll hunt down Karai as well, and take her to Shredder to make a deal.
Yes. And so it's a race to find Karai, which is kind of a problem I have with this specific episode. We don't see Karai in this one.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do, because I know she's next.
No, Karai appears in this episode. They find Karai in this episode because,
I might not remember everything.
Zek and Steranko find Karai. They're going to tag her with a trank dart, and the turtles interrupt them, and they fight one another. And so they still end up going after her. They end up catching Karai, and they end up trying to make the deal with Shredder. And once they make the deal with Shredder, the turtles come and interrupt it and stop all of it from happening. Karai gets away once again by the end of it, but Shredder ends up with Steranko and Zek. And so at the end of this episode, he decides he's going to punish Steranko and Zek by making them mutants. And I thought these two might become who they become, but they end up becoming, Steranko becomes Rocksteady, and Zek becomes Bebop.
Yep, the classic Bebop and Rocksteady.
And I thought they might do this. I thought, the second I saw these two characters again in this episode, I'm like, okay, they become Bebop and Rocksteady, don't they? That was my thought, and I was right.
And I will say, so first of all, before I forget, Bebop is voiced by J.B. Smooths, who people may know.
It's the same voice for Zek, is it not? Or did they change it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but because now I can Bebop and Rocksteady.
Okay.
That's So yeah, Bebop and Zek is voiced by J.B. Smooths, who people may know as Tracy from American Dad, and Rocksteady is voiced by Fred Tellershaw, who again has a lot of voiceover works for his credit, but some of the ones I feel are noteworthy are the Hulk in various Marvel animated stuff, and also Arg in Trollhunters and Three Below.
The only role that matters.
Yep, exactly. I think he is also the voice principal, but this is the one. Let's be honest. Which one of these roles do you like the most?
Arg.
I'll go with a giant troll. Thank you very much.
Yep.
But yeah, as I become Bebop and Rocksteady, and I have to say, the chemistry between them is 10 times better than the chemistry the Bebop and Rocksteady from the 80s show had. I don't mind the 80s Bebop and Rocksteady at all, but these ones are funny as hell, and they're also threatening to the turtle. So
yeah.
I like them.
Yeah, I like these two characters a lot. They're a good addition. The mutations for them are a great addition. They're a great addition to the cast, and they stay main characters. And I don't want to call them main characters, but they do increase in their appearances more often after this point, and it's nice to have them. Right? I completely agree.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that I think it's in the next episode, the one that we'll get to now, the Pig and the Rhino.
Yeah, episode 11, the Pig and the Rhino.
Yeah, but I think there's a line that I don't know what, Rocksteady says something like, catching turtles is really good exercise, better than the Pilates. I don't know why. It cracks me up when it says it. I don't know why. But yeah, so now Bebop and Rocksteady are on the hunt for the turtles.
Yeah, like we start episode 11 is kind of, I guess, a small two-parter with episode 10 where they immediately start off at the ending.
Two-parter in the sense that it came out a whole month after the previous one.
Oh, wow, jeez.
Sorry, random rant.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Wow. Very, very late afterwards. They waited a long time on that one. I mean, it is a continuation. I guess that's kind of why they did it that way, because it took so long to get it out. But it is a continuation of the previous episode where we kind of start off with Bebop and Rocksteady, Zack and Stranko getting mutated, becoming that, and Shredder kind of gives them an ultimatum of serve him or perish, and they choose to serve him really easily. They don't bother to fight hardly at all. They get
like, what are you expecting?
Like they fight, they try to fight a little bit, and Shredder kind of just grabs Rocksteady, throws him onto Bebop, and like, okay, we'll serve you. We give up. You threw me. That's it. I give up. Like, you guys gave up really easy, and then they eventually end up blaming the turtles for them getting mutated. It's like, why is it the turtles' fault? They didn't mutate you, but whatever. I guess. Yeah. But this episode goes with us re-hunting Karai again.
Yeah, but there is something that Donnie does manage to make a new batch of retro mutagen to get her back to normal, and so they do, and I remember really like it was intense. I really like the intensity of it. Yeah. And the fight scenes always great, and especially again, I love how Bebop and Rocksteady in this show are actually threatening.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
Because in the 80s shows, like, turtles make quick work of them because they were idiots. So at least
they are kind of idiots here too, but they're threatening idiots. They do have some staying power, and they do have some strength behind them, right? Like, they're not just easily able to be dealt with every single time. It's enjoyable, and they do actually get stuff done, surprisingly enough, more than Bradford and Zever do at times.
I agree.
But yeah, like, we end up with the turtles meeting back with Karai. She tries to give her goodbyes to them, like she's not going to be able to stay to keep her humanity much longer, so she decides to leave. The retro mutagen doesn't work on Karai. Why they keep making the retro mutagen and never using it on their enemies, I do not get. Like, they could easily make these people more easy to deal with if they would just remutate them back, honestly, but they don't. Like, they could remutate Bradford, Zever, all of them, and they just don't. It's kind of
honestly,
annoying.
I think that's because to them, what's the difference? Because
still though, it's like they could still remutate them, but anyways. Like, they make this retro mutagen, they could use it on the other people who are mutated.
I will say this is something that I did kind of disappointing, that Karai was barely used in this season, and this was also like, I can control this, goodbye now, I don't want to, I don't know, like, you could do something with this, and granted they cannot do later, but at the same time, give me more Karai.
Well, we do end up with Karai captured at the end of it, and Shredder does end up with, he has Karai in his control now, and that kind of leads us into a good chunk of story for the later half of this season, right? Dealing with that, but we'll get to that a bit later. So Karai's captured by Bebop and Rocksteady. And this is kind of their episode. This is their villain episode as mutants now, which is good. I like that.
Yeah, because Bebop and Rocksteady are big names in the total canon. Like, in the second live action movie, when they have Toka and Razal, people still call them Bebop and Rocksteady because they wanted the movies to represent the characters from the cartoon.
Yeah.
And the less I say about Bebop and Rocksteady in the Michael Bay version, the better. But trust me, it's for the better. But so we are now getting into the mid-season two-parter.
Yes.
Battle for New York.
This is good. I enjoyed this.
The first thing that's worth mentioning is that Slash, Leatherhead, Dr. Rockwell, and Pigeon Pete are all back and have formed the Mighty Mutanimals,
And they're being
which
led by Kurtzman.
yeah. By the way, the Mighty is actually a group the Turtles meet in the Archie comics known as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, which was based on the 80s cartoon. I can't tell you much of if they're consisted of the same characters, but I enjoy this team.
Yeah, I like it. I mean,
Like,
Slash and Leatherhead are both good characters, and I
was
like
just
what they
about to
do
say,
with Rockwell here. Like, Rockwell can now talk, and apparently they, experimented on Rockwell, so now he has psychic abilities as well. It's really fun.
yeah. So I like this idea. One thing that did kind of annoy me is that the first part of this two-parter is the two leaders, Leo Slash, kind of being at each other's throats, and it's like you have the same goal, you have the same target.
But at the very least, like, you do see, like, yeah, they have different ways of doing things, but like Leo distrusts Slash and thinks Slash doesn't care about his team, but you do realize, like, Slash does care about his team. He has changed. And so, like, you do see growth in this episode for both of the characters, right? They do come together at the end of it and say, hey, we do work well together. We did misjudge each other, and we're sorry for that. Like, I do enjoy that. It's a bit, man, like, you both have the same goal, just work together, get over it. But at the same time, there is some growth there, and they do manage to work things out between the two of them. It's nice. I enjoy that much, at least. It has a point to it, at the very least, right? It's not just there to create drama. Because for the most part, they are kind of doing their own thing. Like, they're not exactly working together. They're just working together, but separately. Like, both teams are in there doing their kind of own thing. Because at first, like, we learned that the Krang are going to launch a missile to mutate the entire Earth by launching a missile at it. And so they stop that from happening. And then we end up going to Dimension X in the second part of this two-parter to rescue all of the mutated humans that are in Dimension X.
Yeah.
So, we get the return of Armabot and Crime Subprime. Armabot's still creepy.
Yeah, I agree.
Kurtzman gets shot. He's not dead, but he does get shot.
Yeah.
Woo.
But the one thing I will say is the second part of this is great. The second part is great.
Yeah, it's really cool. The first part's kind of, it's all right, it's there, but the second part, I think, is where this really picks up and really does well, and it's cool to see everything come together.
Right? And also, this is kind of, for purposes, this is the defeat of the Krang in this show. Like,
so they don't come back at all after this point? Because I feel like they do come back a little bit, but
like, they are being mentioned. They are meeting something related to the Krang every once in a while. But in terms of the Krang trying to take over the Earth, this is it. The Turtles beat the Krang in this. Okay. This is big.
So this is this is the Krang's last big attempt, right?
Yeah, this is again. We do see something to the Krang in the future. It's not that.
Well, I know we see something of the Krang within this very season a little bit later, but like after this season, they're just gone for good, or they're still there, just way less, reduced.
They're really reduced.
Okay.
Because this episode also treats it like as the Turtles beat them.
Okay. That's cool.
Which is
that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's
which
nice
it does show. It is progression.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, there is progression there. I can appreciate that, and I want to point out the Krang wearing the captain's hat. That got me to laugh a bit. I'll admit.
Yeah.
That was funny. Little pirate hat the Krang captain is wearing. Ha ha ha. I see that. Also, Dragon Droid. We can't escape dragons apparently.
Yeah, because
even in a show with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we still cannot escape dragons, apparently.
Honestly, I'm willing to bet this is not the first time there was ever a dragon in Ninja Turtles. Like,
no, probably not, but I didn't expect it, so even doing the Outcast, we apparently can't escape dragons.
Mm-hmm. Well, because dragons rule the world. especially the hidden one.
I
I'm
like
sorry,
Krang
but
Subprime. Krang Subprime is fun,
yeah,
especially when he
Craig
starts
some
making fun of the other Krang and the way they talk. Like, we've been here for thousands of years. How can we not talk normally
yeah,
yet?
people
I love it.
People give Gilbert Gottfried's voice a bit of shit, but
I
he's
like him though.
perfect for this.
Yeah, he's
He's
good for this
perfect.
role.
Yeah,
Like, he fits this
I
role
love,
perfectly. I completely agree.
especially in the Salka.
Hmm.
Like he has a remake in the next season, which I love. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So good two-parter. I will say that the two-parter from the previous season was a bit better, but I still like this one.
Yeah, this was still like, this was a good retaking of New York. There's a lot of good stuff here fighting the Krang, and it was enjoyable. Like, it's nice to finally have this. It felt like, we've waited so long for this. I don't think we should have waited this as long as we did. I don't think there should have been as much nonsense filler as there was. But when we finally get it, at the very least, it doesn't feel disappointing to get it. And that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have the next episode on the Underworld, which is like, remember the two-parter we just saw? Let's see what Casey was doing.
Well, it's not so much what he was doing; it's what he's doing afterwards. Now it's kind of we see New York recovering, and we kind of see everyone kind of relaxing a bit more, and this has all happened now. So let's take a step back, and so now we're seeing kind of Casey Jones fighting criminals and crime that's going on as New York is recovering. It's a neat kind of this is what happens afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
We get introduced to, if I'm not mistaken, a new character that is Han.
Yeah,
the new leader of the Purple Dragons. I love this guy. He is completely over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Han is the leader of the Purple Dragons in other versions of Turtles as well. So it's kind of nice to finally see him in this show. And yeah, it's a good episode. I don't have much to say, and I like that we have Casey have his own episode, to make him stand out, and it was a fine way to do it.
I do dislike that we're doing the whole, hey, Casey and Raph are at odds again, and Casey feels like he's not as a part of the team as he should be. It's getting old.
I agree that character episode tend to start with this entire thing, and this I really don't like. But when what it leads to, I'm fine.
What it leads to is good, and we also do get this is the start of the hey, Shredder is making a mind control serum to try and control Karai, and we kind of find out a bit about that, and this kind of leads us through quite a few good episodes that continue on this particular plot line. Like everything from here forward does relate back to that for a bit. Not like a good few episodes from episode 14 on into minus episode 17, we get a good few episodes that are connected back to this brainwashing formula that Shredder is trying to make, right? Yes. And that's enjoyable because that's what I kind of enjoy the most, is when we get these less episodes of the week and more of a continuing storyline that goes on through a bunch of different episodes. That's more of my favorite thing. That's more of what I tend to enjoy. It's nice to have that, and this is the start of that.
I agree.
I also a small mention to Mikey when he starts constantly kicking Razar against the wall. That was funny. I enjoyed that little moment. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
In the factory near the end of this episode. That was funny. I enjoyed it. And we also get to see Casey have his big hero moment at the end. It's all good. It's great. An enjoyable episode.
Enjoyable one, which leads us to the Noxious Avenger.
The Noxious Avenger. This is also enjoyable-ish.
Yeah,
it's another mutagen episode technically, but I like what they do with it, I guess.
One thing I'll say about Garbage Man or Muckman, as he's referred to, it's not the case in this show, but in the 2003 show, he was voiced by Pollock, aka Dr. Eggman. Just thought I'll point this out.
Cool. Your Sonic reference for the day is done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I talked about that one episode, but it was so long ago you might have forgotten.
No, I remember. Anyway, it's just we blocked your Sonic references out most of the time.
Mm-hmm. So now we have 2. I'm happy. So yeah, this episode, it's fine. It's
And
okay.
it's like I said, it kind of continues on the storyline of building the formula. So, they go up against Bebop and Rocksteady, who are trying to gather ingredients to, create the formula and stuff like that. And we get, this random garbage dude who's collecting garbage, and he ends up getting mutated. He also ends up blaming the turtles for getting mutated, even though it wasn't the turtles' fault at all. But I get it, I guess.
You know what? There's one part of this episode I do like when Splinter grounds the turtles.
I don't like that.
Mikey,
But go ahead.
hold on.
Go ahead.
It's not something that he grounds them.
Okay.
It's like when he says it, then Mikey automatically goes to the TV like Crocodile Marathon, and then Splinter throws his stuff on the TV.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, oh shit.
No
that
TV.
was funny.
Yeah, like he continually takes the TV from Mikey as well. Whenever Mikey tries to hide a new TV as well, like he takes that one. That was funny. I admit. That was funny. Doing the whole grounded thing again because they get caught potentially on TV is a bit annoying. Like, we've been through the whole grounded thing before. Like, they've saved the world multiple times at this point, Splinter. I think, you're being over the top now at this point, considering what we've all been through and seen, but I guess it's whatever. But, yeah, like, this is I think this is a decent episode. It continues that on. We kind of see, like, this guy takes the spotlight on the TV show, like, Grody to the max. Like, he's actually found out and he gets attention, and he ends up saving the turtles at the end and being this cool monster hero and everything, and it's all right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little thing that kind of sort of continues on the storyline, but also introduces a new mutagen thing, but it doesn't. It's one of the few mutagen episodes we have in this latter half of the season, which I thoroughly enjoyed personally. And it does it pretty well. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and an okay one.
Yeah.
So we move on to Clash of the Mutanimals, which, the Mighty Mutanimals back, and Shredder kidnaps Slash and
Rockwell.
And Rockwell, sorry.
No, he kidnaps Slash and Rockwell.
Yeah, but he mind controls, he hypnotizes them to kill the turtles and the rest of them. Which I like this in terms of, just to show you how strong the Mutanimals connection is now, that we are already put to the test of we have that they have to fight their own teammate. Which I like this.
Yeah, it's good. Like, and it's also good to see, like, they are connected to the turtles and to Shredder and to Splinter as well, right? Like, they're all kind of connected together and everything. Like, I think, and again, this continues on the plot line of the brainwashing formula because Shredder decides he needs to test it out on someone else before he uses it on Karai. So he grabs these two, right? And it's also, looking at notes, there's a fourth wall joke in here, and if I'm not mistaken, it's to do with the TV show that they watch. Again, I think it's something, I forget what the fourth wall joke is. There's a fourth wall joke in here, and I hate them. I remember what it is. I mentioned previously how I liked the idea of, the show that they watch tends to reflect back on what they go through in the real world.
And Mikey mentioned this.
And Mikey mentions it, and I'm like, I hate you. I hate you for this. You can't do this show. You cannot. Like, it's a good joke. I get it. I like the joke, I'll admit, but I hate you for making it.
You don't like fun.
I don't. I'm a completely unfun person. I also hate it when people steal my thoughts. That was my thought first. I did it first. Even though this show technically aired many years ago, I still did it first.
Sure.
So the show stole my thought.
Fair point. But but anyway, again, another enjoyable. I like seeing them again and how they have to face this dilemma. I like the turtles being there to help them, and I like that all of them have mutual respect for one another. Yeah. I like this. Good episode. Yeah. Again, fun. All I need.
I do also like seeing just how much Shredder does care for Karai and this kind of, and how much revenge fuels him, but also how much he does care and love for Karai in a way. Like, he did raise her, he does care for her. It's
like I said in the, it's psychotic, but it's also interesting to see.
Yeah, it definitely it adds a lot to his character. From just like, he's not just revenge fueled. He's revenge fueled in an interesting way, right? Like, it adds more to his character. I enjoy it. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so next episode is Meet Mondo Gecko. Mondo Gecko is another that comes from the 80s show. He's back in here, and he's voiced by none other than Robbie Rist, who was Michelangelo in the original action.
You broke up a bit there. He's voiced by who now?
Robbie Rist, the original voice of Michelangelo in the original trilogy. I love Robbie Rist as Michelangelo. I love him in this episode.
Yeah, he does really good.
And he also brings back the iconic Turtles catchphrase, Cowabunga.
Mm-hmm. And Mikey in this show gets to say that a few times. And I think Mondo Gecko even says Booyakasha in this episode as well, right?
Like, he asks Michelangelo in the end if he can use Booyakasha every once in a while, and Michelangelo says, as long as I can say Cowabunga, which, by the way, how to make me like have two Michelangelos yell Cowabunga. That's all I need. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, fun fact about when they meet Mondo Gecko and the skateboard, Mikey does say like Cowabunga is so 90s, which implies it's kind of the first time he ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And although I'm not sure about this, if someone wants to correct me, correct. But there was a game based on this show's play, simple title Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the 3DS, Wii, and 360, I think, where apparently one of the gameplay lines is Booyakasha. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Which implies he was aware of this, so that game is officially not canon.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the game's probably never canon anyways, but this is an okay episode. It's kind of just more filler. It has no connection to anything. It's just introducing this new character who apparently got mutated with a gecko. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but for a filler episode, I had fun.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Which I like that, all the villains have like this race that they're watching, and when the Turtles wins, they're like, "Oh, god damn it!"
Yeah, I do like how none of them go after the Turtles, right? Like, they all just leave like, I should have betted on someone different and not betted on, Zever, because Zever's the one they race against, and he's got all these traps set up for them. And we should also mention, like, I also enjoy the dynamic between Casey and Mikey. Like, it actually works out pretty well for them.
Yeah, again, this is not.
Hello, you broke up there again.
I said again. Usually see.
You broke up again.
When you see it, for the love of God, hold on.
While he's gone, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say that, hey, the dynamic between Casey and Mikey is something you don't expect, but it is enjoyable to get, right?
Yes, exactly.
With
that said, we have the next episode, The Deadly Venom.
Yes.
Now Shredder suddenly realizes, wait a minute, I have my adopted quote unquote daughter in my possession. I have a way to brainwash people. Why won't I brainwash her?
Well, that was the plan from the beginning, right? That's what he intended to do from the beginning. And it's like, I don't know how, it's kind of weird this episode, because all of a sudden we get Karai back and she has more of her humanity back all of a sudden. It's a little weird because she was
her mutation is not really
gone. No, she's not gone. Her mutation is still there. She's still mutated.
No, what I mean is that her mutation doesn't really have many rules to it. Like, it's kind of like what the plot demands it to be.
I guess so. Well, I mean, they kind of had this thing set up of where Karai was losing her humanity and she was losing her mind somewhat and becoming more snake-like, but all of a sudden we get to this episode, and apparently through the mind control serum and mind control worms that Shredder has created, he's gotten rid of her snake-likeness now, and she's more human again, even though she's still a mutated snake person. It's weird. It kind of comes out of nowhere, in my opinion. But other than that, I think this is still a good episode, though. Because, we get to see something that we never got to see in any of the previous seasons because Casey was introduced much later. We get to see Karai and Casey end up fighting. And that's a good fight, I thought. I enjoyed that a lot.
And again, this is something that we don't see. We didn't really see Casey meet Karai before this.
And we get to see that now, which is really interesting and really cool and neat to see.
By the way, the way
Go
she injects the venom into him.
I like that she used the word inject as well. Ugh.
Well, because she kisses him.
Yes.
And I will say people have started shipping this because of that.
Oh, sure. Of course they do. People will ship... You have two characters just look at each other in a certain way, and people will ship it together.
Yeah, but the thing is that I think Kelly Hu actually jokingly said that she would be up for that if they actually went for it.
Of course.
So yeah, that's something for you.
But yeah, I mean, we get like Karai capture. Karai poisons April. She poisons Casey. She poisons all of the turtles.
She poisons everyone, and this is something that
she ends up capturing the Mikey, Donnie, and Raph as well.
Yeah, she also poisons Leo, but Leo does manage to use a special healing mantra.
Well, yeah, we actually bring back the idea of the glowy aura thing, the kind of mysticism thing. Like Splinter understands and can use some of this mysticism
remember when
stuff.
I told you?
You did say it would come back, and it did come back. I enjoyed this fact. I enjoyed that they brought this back, and it actually has a lot more to it because we see that you can use this mysticism stuff to heal yourself and heal others if you need to, and if you need to, right? So, we see that, Splinter says, hey, I can teach you this if you want to learn it. And so Leo decides, all right, I would like to learn it. Well, we see Leo, and Splinter sparring. Leo beats Splinter because Splinter's still weak from his fight with the mutanimals previously in the previous episode, right? And so, in episode 16, not episode 17. And so we get that, and Splinter heals himself using this technique, and Leo says, hey, that's neat, I would like to learn it. And Splinter says, hey, this is what the technique is, I can teach you, and they agree, and so he teaches him. And Leo uses this new technique to heal himself of the venom while he's fighting Karai in order to defeat her.
Yeah.
End of episode.
So, so again, another fun one. I enjoy, again, Karai, I love Karai. Mm-hmm. So even if she's brainwashed, all is fun.
And it's nice to see, and there's a lot of good dynamics going on here, like the Casey Karai fight, and we get to see, Mr. Kirby and Splinter doing a thing together. Mr. Kirby's kind of a bit character at this point, though. He's not really done anything since the first season, except just kind of be a worried parent, which is kind of annoying. But I get it, I guess.
Yeah, it is fun to see that they did heal him from his mutation again.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
He'll probably. Oh boy, we'll get to it.
So next episode, Turtles in Time, which this is a reference to the awesome Super Nintendo game, which you should definitely play.
I have played it.
Don't play the reshelled version though. Do not.
I think I don't know. I don't have the copy anymore, but we actually owned the original copy of this for the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo version is amazing.
So I have played it.
It's still the best Turtles game, honestly. But
so
anyway,
did the animation change in this episode somewhat? I was watching this episode, and it felt like the animation changed in this episode, and it felt like there was a change in the animation going forward as well.
I'm not sure, but they do have this thing starting with this, that the opening would be like in quote unquote widescreen with the black aspect ratios.
Maybe that's
on
what
the top
I
and bottom.
Because I feel like there's a change here.
Yeah, and then the rest of the episode would just be full screen.
Maybe that's what I noticed and what felt different. But it definitely felt like from this episode onward, there was a change in the animation or something. And maybe that's what it was that I noticed. But I definitely noticed that something changed. This felt weird. This felt different.
Okay. Well, here we are being introduced to Renette.
Who, by the way, I immediately heard her voice and was like, God, that voice sounds familiar. Where do I know her from? I know that voice. I know that voice. Wait, that's Gwen from Ben 10, isn't it? And I looked it up, and it absolutely is. It's the VA for Gwen from Ben 10.
Well, basically, Renette is voiced by Ashley Johnson, who is from Ben 10, like Wolf said, but other notable roles are Terra from Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, and she's also the voice of Ellie in the wonderful video game that is known as The Last of Us. And the interesting thing about
role, but I've not played that game, but I do know Gwen from Ben 10, so that's where my reference come from. It's like, and I heard her voice, and I just spent so long sitting there. God, I know that. I know her. Who is she from? Where is she from?
So another interesting fact, though, is that Ashley Johnson, like Renette, is Michelangelo's love interest, and Ashley Johnson actually voices Greg Sipes' love interests in like 5 shows, with this being the 6th one. So, like, I think in Ben 10, Ben 10 also, like he has I think he plays a love interest in Ben 10 as well.
Does he play Kevin? Because Kevin's the only love interest she has in that show, if I'm not mistaken. Although technically,
I didn't watch Ben 10, so you tell me.
I don't know of all the VAs in that show. I'd have to look it up. But
like in Teen Titans, she was Terra, he was Boy, and in here there's this. Like, I know there are a lot of other shows, and this is like continuing the tradition.
I suppose, yeah.
So that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
He actually said that as a joke he did ask her out once, and I'm not sure what came up with this, but
she probably said no.
Most likely, but another so Renette comes to ask the turtles help, who in retrieving her time controlling scepter from the Time Master Savanti Romero.
So is this a reference? Yes, Savanti Romero. Is this a reference to any old Turtles thing? I feel like it is.
Like, these characters have appeared before, but I don't remember necessarily where exactly. But voice acting Savanti Romero is voiced by Graham Maketvash.
That's a name. That's a name.
He did a lot of roles in the Uncharted games. Like, in every game, he'll have a different role. So it's funny that these 2 time travelers have both been in Naughty Dog games. Nice. So I like this episode personally, because we get a lot of creative stuff with the time travel.
Yeah, like I enjoyed this episode. Like this episode, we do some creative animation stuff with the time travel stuff. We loop an episode basically, which that joke wore thin very quick, but it was funny for a brief second, but they wore it thin a bit too quick. But I enjoy Renette. She's great. Ashley Johnson is always great. I loved Gwen back in Ben 10, so of course I'm going to love Renette.
And also I do want to say, first episode of Michelangelo with his love interest, he gets a kiss. My boy! My boy! That's all.
Your boy also gets told that, your boy also gets shut down on a date offer by saying, like, she's too young because she hasn't even been born yet. I like that joke. That was good.
Yeah. Well, still my boy compared to his other turtles, to his other brothers so far.
I mean, Raph's not even had a love interest because Raph doesn't care. Leo's not really had a love interest either.
Wait till next season. That's all I say.
Oh boy, I don't want to wait.
But
I don't want to watch it either. I did like the joke where Donnie hugs Renette and Mikey comes up and just gives him the finger point, like, I'm watching you, bro. Like, I like that. That was a good joke. I like that. That was enjoyable. Like, this was a fun episode. This had a lot of good jokes in it, I felt.
Really fun episode, and it does lead us to the next episode.
They have a lot of episodes that feel kind of like pseudo two-parters. Like, they're not exactly two-parters, but they do have that feeling of two-parters, right? Like, a lot of these episodes have that feeling.
Yeah, but
and
by
that's
the
good.
end
I
of
enjoy
it,
that.
because by the end of the episode, the turtles arrive at Japan 16 years before.
Yeah, we like they get mixed up in the timeline. They end up in a different timeline, and they don't end up in the present. They end up in the past, where we get to see the past of Shredder and Splinter, where they don't become
Yeah,
Shredder and Splinter. They are Hamato Yoshi and Urokusaki.
Rokusaki. Yeah, and
This is
also
good. So yeah, episode 20, Tales of the
this
Yokai.
is this is the first. This is also the we finally get to meet Tang Shen,
Mm-hmm.
voiced by Miyane Nuki, who Turtles fans might know as for playing Karai in the 2014 film.
That's the Michael Bay film,
Which,
correct?
yeah, that's the Michael Bay film, and I'll say, God bless her. She was trying her best in that movie, and she was given nothing. Nothing. I was so mad that if the not Shredder villain wouldn't have called her Karai at one point, I would have never guessed she was supposed to be Karai. But God help her, she tried her best, and you know what pisses me off more? That she was recast for the sequel. Like, you recasted the best thing. Fuck you, Michael Bay. But this is another story. But yeah, we see her, and she did great as Tang Shen, and also, if I may
No, I like
say,
how
this
the
is
person who plays Karai now plays Karai's mom.
like with
Nice little
April
reference, yeah.
earlier that episode, but earlier that season. But I will say this is my favorite episode of the season.
Um, yeah, I would agree. Like it's nice. I like Shredder and Splinter's characters. I like the story between them. So I would agree. Like I think of this season, I think this is definitely up there. I don't know if I'm not 100% sure if I would say it's my favorite, but it's absolutely up there. It's definitely a
It's
great
my
episode.
favorite. It's my favorite. Like for one, there is one part I really like, which is Leonardo holding the baby Karai in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
This
It's
is
adorable.
adorable.
Yeah.
And also, I do like that. We did know Splinter and Shredder's backstory from this show,
But it's still
but
nice to get to actually
yeah,
see it
but
and
then
live through it.
we see it there because you can also see that you can kind of see where Shredder's envy come from because Yoshi's kind of teasing him around. Splinter is not 100% saint, which
Yeah,
I
we see that
like.
Splinter's
This
not
is
exactly a good person. We see, like, like Splinter talks about this where he made mistakes in his past, and that's why he's suffering now, right? Like, he even says, like, way back in season 1, season 2, that, hey, Shredder isn't entirely at fault. I was too. I was to blame for what happened as well. Like, we see Splinter accepts that, and we kind of see now, like, hey, Splinter was a bit at fault. Like, he wasn't treating Tang Shen as well as he could have, right? Like, he was more concerned about other stuff and not just, his wife and his daughter. And we see that Shredder did try to, he was trying to become a better person, right? Like, we see that Shredder was, apparently involved with Tang Shen before Splinter
before
was.
Yoshi was.
Yeah. And so, and he tries to tell her, like, hey, I've become a better person. I am changing. And the fact that he's able to tell her that, like, she starts to maybe consider being with him instead.
And the
it changes the future.
And the heart-wrenching idea that Shredder, Saki is the one that kills Tang Shen, but not on purpose.
No.
He's broken.
Yeah.
And when he steals Karai from Splinter, it's not necessarily to get even with him, or he just, I think it also implied that he's kind of doing this in honor of Tang Shen
to replace her as well.
Yeah. And so there's this, and the other thing which I really like is that, in a sense, the Turtles' involvement, when I say involvement, they're not seen, at least not by Yoshi or Saki.
Well, but they are seen by Saki, technically.
It kinda, but the thing is that, they have the more interaction with Tang Shen than the other.
Yeah.
But, the thing is that their involvement, even if indirect, is kind of the reason that Splinter is able to let them grow in the future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they
You
saved
know,
Splinter's life technically,
yeah,
and even
they save Splinter
and Renette even
themselves,
comes
and
back by the end of this episode and says, like, you were meant to do this. Like, you were supposed to do this. And I always get worried about things like this, like, oh no, we're doing a time travel episode.
yeah, but
But they do it
they
well.
did it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it well here because it's not that the Turtles intervene too much with the timeline.
No, it's just that
That
they are there and they kind of
yeah,
scare some Foot Clan soldiers, and then they, save Splinter at the end of it when everyone's gone, right? And they find Tang Shen dead, and that's it.
yeah, but so this is both the thing with Shredder killing Tang Shen and both the Turtles being meant to save Splinter so that he could raise them in the future. I'm not joking. This is the first episode of the show out of 2 that actually made me cry.
That's fair. Like I can absolutely see that.
Maybe because I'm a sap, but
I didn't
damn,
like.
this
I'm
felt
not
me.
as. It's probably you're more connected than I am. I didn't. I'm not as connected, but still, I can see exactly why someone would. It makes perfect sense. It's a good episode. I completely agree.
Yeah, great episode. I enjoyed it a lot, and like just strong, very
Like
strong.
this wasn't
And
something we needed, but I'm absolutely glad I got it. Like it's not something I
yeah,
was asking
it's
for or
definitely
wanted, but it's not even something I knew I wanted. But now that I've had it, I'm glad I got it. Like this was really well done. Kudos to them on this.
Yep. With that said, the next episode, Attack of the Mega Shredder.
And then we ruin it with this episode. You had it going
I
so strong.
I actually really enjoyed this one.
I didn't. It's not
Oh.
bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate it or anything. It's just it didn't stand out to me. My notes on this episode are Return of the Mech. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else kind of stands out.
Yeah. I will say there is one part that I love. In this,
I'm guessing
that,
this is a Godzilla
the-
reference, right? Because they even make a kaiju reference. Like someone even says
well,
kaiju.
Well, there is a giant monster going around the city, so yeah,
True.
kaiju, giant monster. Kaiju in Japanese it means giant monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you can say there's nothing specific for Godzilla, but
I mean, it does have like the back spikes like Godzilla. Mega
well,
Shredder
yeah,
does.
but yeah, okay, fair, but at the same time, there's it's just because usually when you think kaiju, you are referring to Godzilla, so it's not necessarily.
True.
But I mean, like in terms of what the monster does or how they refer to
yeah.
something, there isn't a specific Godzilla reference.
Yeah.
In this case. But
Absolutely.
there's one part in this episode I love, which because Leo and Mikey are the first to tackle this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Leo goes to try and save Karai, and Mikey tags along, and that monster eats Mikey at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love that there's a point where like Michelangelo bursts through that monster's teeth. By the way, that monster's tongue is like a rokusaki.
Yes.
So I love the fact that Michelangelo bursts through the teeth, going screaming "Cowabunga" as he does, and then he gets the nunchucks, going booyakasha on the tongue, and then you see that the rokusaki tongue is like, I've been cut. I should try to move. I can't move. I guess I'll die now.
Yeah. I'll admit that one made me laugh. I'll agree.
That was amazing.
That was fun. I completely agree. That was definitely a fun moment from this episode.
I'll give him that. That was great. But I think the thing about the maybe problem with this episode is that it came after such a strong emotional one, and this is a more fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
So
it doesn't really connect to anything either. It's kind of just here. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate it. I did enjoy it. But it does. There's nothing connecting it to the previous episode or the episode that comes afterwards. It's just kind of here to fill in time until we get to the finale, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but for finale, it was a good finale, and I enjoyed it. With that said, anything else?
On this episode, no, I think we can move on to episode 22.
Okay. So, the Creeping Doom. We have a smart character. We need to make an episode where that character gets dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this episode is.
Yeah, it's just, hey, we make Donnie dumb in this episode for a bit, even dumber than Mikey apparently. And that's it. I will say, Ice Cream Kitty, love him always.
Yeah,
he's in this episode. Going to point him out every time he appears up because Ice Cream Kitty is great.
Yeah, I love Ice Cream Kitty, but he doesn't.
We have the return of. No, he doesn't. We have the return of the creep, and we have the who makes another creep weed, or no, snake weed, who ends up becoming the creep weed because they get merged and mutated together.
Yeah.
It's again, it's not a bad episode. It's just more filler, and I do like this was a bit of a unique way to bring back an old villain and make a new villain as well. Yeah, this is at the very least, it's using the mutagen in a unique way, which is interesting. But that's really all I can give it. Like, it doesn't really stand out. Nothing in this really stands out in my mind.
Yeah, it's
serviceable. It's a serviceable episode, like many of the others are. It's not something that you have to or need to watch. And this is one of those episodes I recommend skipping. In my
so with that
recommended
said,
way to watch this season.
Yeah. So with that said, the followed trap.
Yeah, the fourfold trap, episode 23.
This is a good one.
Why does Splinter? Has the giant hamster wheel always been there and I've just missed it?
I think that's the first time we see it.
Why does he have a giant hamster wheel?
Because he needs to keep in shape, don't you know?
He's a martial arts master. I don't think he needs a giant hamster wheel. But anyways, that was just silly. I get the joke, but it's just silly.
Wolf, he has a cheese fun for him.
I know.
Do you question it?
I do.
Well, but I do like this episode, especially when it's interesting to see Splinter having to confront Karai, who is brainwashed still. I enjoy it, and also this is an episode that again stands out for its fights.
Yes, I agree. And we also kind of have like the Jigsaw reference with the different traps and everything. And Ice Cream Kitty's back again. Woo, Ice Cream Kitty. Gotta mention it. Like
Ice Cream Kitty.
And we see like Ice Cream Kitty apparently knows how to play cards. And I like I think this is the episode they do it in, where we have Ice Cream Kitty doing little subtitle things for Ice Cream Kitty, telling Mikey that, hey, you snooze, you lose. I liked it.
By the way, I mentioned in the beginning of this that Ice Cream Kitty is voiced by Kevin Eastman. Is it sad that this role honors him more than actually appearing in the Michael Bay movies? Like I think it's in the second one where the Turtles actually pick up pizza for him and they tell him, "Thanks, Kev. See you next week." So yeah, the Ice Cream Kitty is more honorable than actually being on the big screen.
Agreed.
You fucked it up, Michael Bay. Then again, what's new? But moving on, we have.
We should say, like at the end of this episode, it seems that Karai may be out of the brainwashing, and she disappears for now. Like she's lost in the sewers.
Disappears. Yeah, she disappears, and kind of we won't see her until next season.
Oh,
but we'll get.
That spoils something, I think, for me, anyways. But we'll get to it.
We'll get to this when we get to it.
So episode 24.
Anyway, episode 24, we have dinosaur in the sewers, seen in the sewers. And this is the first appearance of the Triceratons.
So you'll tell me about this. Is this a Turtles thing too?
Yeah, the Triceratons appear in the comics and the 2003 show.
Okay. So this Triceraton in particular is named Zog, and he's kind of losing his mind a bit. When we see him first, the mutant animals go after him and try and take him on, and they get their butts kicked very handily. And so then
the Triceratons are a big threat.
And so then we see Raph try and take him on, and Raph can't and almost loses, and instead Raph pretends to be his leader and commander and starts, getting him and using him to go after the Krang, who are apparently not completely gone yet.
They're not completely gone, but the threat is definitely.
And it seems like the Krang have one last plan to try and take over the Earth and everything. It seems like the Krang are creating one more teleporter.
Yeah, but we do find out that the Krang and the Triceratons are rivals.
Yeah, or big enemies with one another. Yeah. and we find out that we just know that the Triceraton. We don't find out anything major. We just know that apparently it seems the Krang are afraid of the Triceraton in this episode, because one of the Krang sees the Triceraton Zog and freaks out and runs away immediately, right? And that's like,
Yep.
we know that apparently he's a big threat and that they're very afraid of him. And later on in this episode, we see Zog gets his equipment back and starts to regain his memory and mind a bit, because he's no longer messed up, and he apparently needs, I think it's, what is it, nitrogen to breathe, and so the
Yeah.
earth of the air's earth being mostly oxygen doesn't work well for him, and so it messes with his mind a bit. He gets his equipment back, he's able to breathe, and then he basically goes against the turtles and tries to send out a beacon to call the rest of the Triceratons to Earth. And we even have
Which leads
a good moment for him and Raph here, where Raph tries to tell him, like, hey, I'm sorry I tricked you, but hey, can't we be friends? Can't we work this out? Can't we make this work? And it's actually a good moment, I thought. Like, I enjoyed the moment here of them trying to sway him back over and say, like, hey, you don't need to destroy the Earth.
Definitely agreed.
Like, I like this. It's a nice, good setup for the next two-parter, because Zog does kill himself at the end. Like, Raph even tries to say him, like, hey, let me save you, and he's like, no, long live the Triceraton Empire, and kills himself.
And Zog commits suicide. That leads us to the finale, Annihilation Earth, where the Triceratons are invading Earth.
Well, we see that hey, the Cranks have one last plot. One last plot to try and take over the Earth. They're trying to revive the Technodrome, and we see a new Krang.
Yeah, Bishop.
The Umatrons. The Umutrons?
Utrons.
Utrons, that's
it. Here's
Utrons.
The thing. Utrons, again, come from the comics and the 2003 show. Mm-hmm. The thing is that Utrons in the comics, and I think it's in the show, in the 2003 show as well, that they're the ones who created the ooze that mutated the turtles. And the thing is that in the 80s show, Krang was created to combine the Utrons into one. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, so I like what they actually. Before I say it, to not spoil anything, what we have Bishop with Utrom. Do they say what the Utroms are to the Krang in this?
They say that the Utroms are a section of the Krang that broke off from the hive mind. That the Krang have a hive mind, and the Utroms broke away from that, and they dislike what the Krang are trying to do.
Yeah, so I think
we also find out that Bishop is the one who made the human robot suit thing, and that the other Krang copied him.
Yeah, so I think that's supposed to be a reference to the fact Krang was inspired by the Utroms initially.
Also, Bishop is cool. He knows how to fight and everything. Like, he takes on all the turtles. Like, he's one of the few Krangs. Like, he still talks like the Krang, but he does have a more normal speech pattern.
Yeah, he has the same voice. It's still
same voice, but normal speech pattern. Like, he's more like Krang subprime. Like, but he's also like, he knows how to fight. Apparently, like, he takes on the turtles very easily. It's really cool.
Yeah. Bishop and the rest of the drums are very.
Like, I like this intro.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good start off. So, go ahead.
Yeah, but we see Bishop. And who helps them take that, fight the Triceraton.
Well, at first they go after the Krang Technodrome to try and to stop it and destroy it, and they use, I like the joke of, we got to stop the Technodrome at any cost, and any cost is just a whole lot of C4 apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Big bomb. And they do end up stopping the Technodrome, but it's too late. The Triceratons are invading Earth now. Yeah, I do like how the Triceratons come on the television, like they basically, send out a signal that appears on every different screen and everything saying, hey, we're here to invade you, and you have been invaded by Krang. We're here to stop the Krang and save you all, but that does mean we're going to destroy your planet. Thank you and good day. Like, I like how they're nice enough to warn everyone, like, hey, we're here to destroy you. Enjoy. Okay, nice, I guess.
Yeah, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. But we have We have the Triceratons invading, and the turtles are getting all the help they can. They get them Mighty Mutanimals, they get Mondo Gecko to help them out,
They get
Bishop as well.
Yeah, they get the Noxious Avenger comes back briefly.
Yeah.
And this is where I kind of say like Mondo Gecko, like you could completely skip his episode, and yeah, you have no idea who this character is
But it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
It's coming into this finale, but he's only there for one bit joke where he just runs into a Triceraton, and the Triceraton's like, "Was I attacked? I didn't feel anything," and that's it. That's all he does. Nothing else.
Yeah.
It's kind of meh. But I liked the joke of Mikey and Casey go after one of the Triceraton ships to try and stop whatever it is they're doing, and like, you see
they're trying to
Raph
invade
and Leo.
Mikey's mind.
And... Oh no, not that part. I'll get to that part in a minute.
Okay.
Like what I'm talking about is like Mikey and Casey are on the Krang ship flying after the Triceraton ships that are carrying the device they're going to use to destroy the Earth, and you see Raph and Leo watching them in the distance, and you see, hey, we're going to attack them, we're going to destroy this thing, and they end up running into a force field and like, oh no, we're going down. That was funny. I enjoyed that kind of distance joke there. That was funny. I enjoyed that. But now go ahead and move on.
Yeah, but there is a point where Mikey is being kidnapped and they're trying to like look into his mind, and it doesn't work. He just manages to ignore that.
Yeah,
that was fun. That's
like
always
apparently
great to see.
It's this thing that's supposed to completely destroy your mind and destroy you as a person, and it does nothing to him because apparently he has just no thoughts. Apparently, like his thoughts are just wild and random, so they get nothing from him. But
this is
the big thing of this episode.
Yeah, so just to make the Triceraton fight on Earth is big because the Triceratons have like this black hole bomb.
Yeah, they have this black hole in the middle of New York.
The black hole. So they do call it the black hole. Okay, so they have that, and without much choice, Splinter has to team up with Shredder.
Yes, because most of the mutanimals get caught, so they need backup from somewhere else as well. And so Splinter and April go to the Shredder's lair to try and recruit them to say, hey, the world's going to be destroyed. Let's put aside our differences temporarily, at least, to try and save the world and save Karai.
And also, exactly. That's what sells Shredder on the entire alliance, which is we can help Karai.
Yeah, because Karai's still out there. She's not dead. He thinks Splinter did something to her. He didn't. She's still out there. We know she's still out there. We just don't know where. So let's team together because she is still there. You do still have a reason to save this world. And it's really cool. It's really cool because you get to see like all of the different villains fighting alongside April and Splinter, right? And you get to see all of that happening, and the turtles end up coming into the day as well, and they're all fighting together.
Yeah.
Trying to stop this black hole machines.
This is a huge fight, and for season finale, this is a big epic showdown, which I really like.
Yes, this is really well done. And we finally get to the end where they have just a little bit of time left to stop the machine.
They have a little bit of time.
Splinter is running at it. Shredder's right behind him, and they get to it. They're about to stop it, and Shredder stabs Splinter in the chest.
Killing him. Splinter's dead.
you say this, but we'll get to. I'll get to what I have to say about that in a minute.
Okay, but I will say that.
Oh, go ahead.
I have to ask you: did you see this coming?
Yes, I'm not surprised by it because Splinter does generally tend to die in the Turtles timeline stuff.
Actually, not much. Maybe just the comics, but
I mean the 80s the movies he dies.
No, he doesn't.
In the 90s movies, he dies. In the first one,
he doesn't.
They go to the farmhouse because Splinter is supposedly killed.
He kidnaps.
He kidnaps him.
He kidnaps him.
I thought he died.
If he dies, how is he in the sequels?
It's been a long time since I've seen these movies. They weren't good movies either. Let's remember, they were okay. They were fun for what they were, but they weren't like good movies.
I'll argue the first one.
Like, I'm not saying it was terrible. I'm just saying, like, they weren't, like, the best things out there. But, and if your comparison is they're better than the Michael Bay movies, it's not hard to be better than the Michael Bay movies. Anything can be better than Michael Bay movies.
Not just in comparison. not just in comparison. But
but
what I
but
want
no,
to
I
say
wasn't
though is
really
that
surprised by it. And
uh,
since we're talking about it, death in this show, because they've brought back so many other characters consistently, like, hey, they've been defeated, they've been killed. Oh no, they haven't. They're still back again. Death has no permanence in this show, and it's lost a lot of its meaning. So if you tell me like this is the last time we see Splinter, he's gone for the rest of the next 2 seasons, it just doesn't hold any weight. I'm sorry. They've just brought back too many old characters. They've done too many things of, hey, the villain's defeated. They're gone for good. But they're not. They've done that so many times now that it just doesn't hold any permanence. There's no weight to it. So I've just, like, yeah, Splinter's dead. Okay. I don't really care, if I'm honest. Like, it just, there's no weight to it. Because like you even said earlier that hey, we see Karai back in the next season, but Karai's on the Earth when this whole black hole generator destroys the Earth, because we see the Earth completely destroyed by the end of this episode. And it's like, if Karai comes back, then that means we get the Earth back. That means we get all these other characters back, which means death still holds no permanence. So
well, we'll get to this later, but the thing is that after Splinter has been killed,
I like
the
how
next
though.
day,
I like though that Tiger Claw actually calls Splinter out, like Shredder out, like, why did you do this? What is your issue? And he tells him like, hey, I've got revenge on Hamato Yoshi. I've finally achieved it. He's finally dead.
yeah,
I don't care. Let the Earth be destroyed. I like that. That's a good moment because you can kind of see like, hey, I like that, the villains are actually kind of calling out Shredder a little bit. Like, they've worked for him all
yeah,
this time, but they still say, like, hey, the world wasn't worth your
like
revenge.
yeah, like the world wasn't for your revenge, but in his mind it was.
Yes. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So with that said, after Splinter has been killed,
And after,
by
we
the
see
way,
the
by
Earth
the way,
being destroyed.
the turtles' reaction actually hit me when
Yeah.
all
It
of
was
them
good.
screamed that that they, but the black hole generator is in fact been
It does
been
go off. It does. It
activated.
activates, and
It
we
does,
see a black hole created, and it destroys the Earth.
yeah, it
But
destroys the Earth.
just in the nick of time, we're saved by a very familiar voice that I also know.
Yeah, okay. I was about to bring this up in the next episode, but you know what?
I mean, we can't
The
not bring it up because
okay,
it is his voice. Like, you can't not bring up the fact that we have David motherfucking Tennant.
so yeah, this is David Tennant. I'll just say yes, this is David Tennant as the a character which we would know as the Fugitive in the next season.
Okay.
But David Tennant, to those of you who don't know, is the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who. Us How to Train Dragon fans know him as Spike Loud in both the movies and the show. He's the current voice of Scrooge McDuck in the Doctor's reboot. And because some of my friends would kill me if I'm not mentioning this one, he's also Crowley in Good Omens, which is a fantastic show and you should definitely watch.
I will mention that he played Dr. Weller in Genlock, which I'm very interested to see, considering what happens to Dr. Weller in Genlock and how he ends up playing a robot in Genlock technically as well. I'm interested to see where this one goes because I did not know David Tennant was in this show at all. So I'm interested, and that he also apparently plays a robot in this show too, it seems. So I'm interested to see where this goes.
Okay.
I'm interested to see what comparisons I can make to this and Genlock. And I have to mention Genlock because Ruby fan. So.
Okay, so there you go. But so the Fugitive comes, and before the Earth is completely disappeared, he saves the turtles, April and Casey, by taking them on his spaceship, and this is where the season ends.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you want when it comes to cliffhangers. This show has some cliffhangers.
I'll admit, right, going into this one, I was a bit more excited considering I saw the ending of season 2. I was excited to see, like, hey, they're going to do something different. We're going to get a continuing storyline for this season, and we didn't get that. And throughout most of the season, it started to drag. I was getting old with it, and I was, it started to drag. It was getting old very quickly. I was getting bored with it. and we get to this finale, we get to here, and it's like, okay, fuck it, fine. You have David Tennant. I'm at least a little interested in season 4 again. God damn you.
That's the power of David Tennant. But
it is.
Yeah. So
if this show fucks up David Tennant, we're done. By the way, we're not doing season 5.
I won't.
If they screw up David Tennant, this show is irredeemable, and we're done, and we're not covering season 5. And by the way, if I see the Earth is destroyed, the Krang are basically gone. If I see one mention of mutagen in season 4, we're done. We're done. If I get a hint of mutagen, we're out. I'm out.
Okay, so let's wait until you watch season. But
I'll come back here to complain, HC. I will complain like no other if I get one hint of mutagen.
You know what? I can't tell you necessarily because I might not remember anything to a T. But the soon you get a hint of mutagen, message me.
Oh boy.
Because if you don't, I'm going to assume there's nothing. But,
or I'm just saving it for the episode.
Maybe. But anyway, this was one hell of a finale.
You know, this season, it has its highs and its lows. It's not my favorite season.
It's a very hit and miss.
I think season 2 does better than this season. But I think
I agree.
When this season hits its highs, I think it hits highs that are better than season 2, right?
I'll agree with this.
When it hits its lows that are probably the worst of the 3 seasons I've watched thus far.
I'll have to agree. And yeah, but we'll get more into season 4 when we get to season 4. Mm-hmm. And but with that said, unless you have anything else to say,
no. I think we're good. I think we covered it all. This is probably one of our longest episodes yet.
Yeah, so with that said, that's been the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts about the 3 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012? Mm-hmm. You can tell us all about that in the comment section below on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So until next time, I was HC.
And I've been Wolf.
And we'll talk to you all next time. Booyakasha Kawabanga. Take care.
Goodbye.